I was reincarnated as a trainee judge in the underworld. But the first criminal I have to judge is none other than the ancestral dragon, Ying Zhuang. Because although the ancestral dragon conquered the six kingdoms and unified the land of China, he also caused countless commoners to die in war. They couldn't understand the greatness of the first emperor unifying China. That's why after arriving in the underworld, they joined forces to file complaints against Ying Zhuang. But there are also souls who strongly support the ancestral dragon, believing his immense achievements should be remembered for eternity. This made the case extremely complicated. Moreover, the ancestral dragon's status and identity are just too powerful, so special that even the 10 Yama kings dared not judge him. Thus, this case has been delayed for over 1,000 years. Finally, under constant pressure from the heavenly court, this case ultimately landed in my hands as a trainee judge. But I wasn't panicked at all. In fact, I laughed outright. The ancestral dragon of China. How could he be easily slandered by the likes of you? It was I who decided to make the trial of the ancestral dragon a live broadcast across the three realms. Let all see the merits and faults of Qin Shi Huang, the emperor for the ages, through a live broadcast. Then let the descendants of China judge whether Ying Zheng is guilty or not. But the reason the case fell to me was not because the 10 Yama kings had faith in me, but because they wanted me, the trainee judge, to take the fall. Because as soon as the trial fails, the fate of the judge will only be to fade completely from the 6 paths of reincarnation. There's just this one way to go. So when this mission landed on me, I was at a loss at first, then calmly accepted the task. Because as a descendant of China, I know the first emperor's greatness lasts through the ages. So even though he is publicly judged, I hope he can get a fair trial. Just as I was thinking about how to handle the case, a system notification suddenly popped into my mind. Host detected about to judge Ying Zheng, the emperor for the ages. Supreme Judge system is now bound.
Hearing this,
I was instantly overjoyed. Is my golden cheat finally here? Then the system told me, as long as I successfully judge Ying Zheng, I can pick 1 out of 3,000 great Dao fragments as a reward, plus a newbie gift pack. The dark sound of the Tao. This dark sound of the Tao lets immortals below the sage level be reborn. When I heard this, I narrowed my eyes and immediately got to work preparing the trial. At the same time, news that Ying Zheng was about to be judged spread throughout the underworld. All at once, the entire underworld was thrown into celebration. Countless souls who perished during China's unification began to howl. When I left the Hall of Kings, quite a few souls even threatened me, demanding I strictly investigate every crime Ying Zheng committed. I directly chose to ignore them. As the first emperor of China, I will never allow him to be insulted at will. Just then, Ghost Immortal Zhang Kui, wearing a dark red robe, suddenly blocked my way. Then, looking down at me, he said, "Kid, do you know who will preside over this case? And who will lead the court review?" After hearing this, I was a little confused, not knowing what he meant by court review. After thinking a few seconds, I bowed and said, as a mere trainee judge, I'm not sure what Senior Zhang Kui means by court review. At this, Zhang Kui nodded. My composed attitude made him quite satisfied. Then he said sternly, this time, all the top figures across the 3 realms will come to watch the trial. So in addition to the presiding judge, there will be several associate judges. I nodded after hearing this. The trial of the ancestral dragon truly is a huge event. Having VIPs observe is completely normal. But after I heard the 3 names of the associate judges, my face changed instantly, because Zhang Kui told me that the associate judges are Japan's Amaterasu and Susanoo, along with Greece's Hades. After hearing Zhang Kui's words, all I felt was endless anger. Are these foreign gods worthy of judging our ancestral dragon? But after calming down, I felt the situation wasn't too bad. After all, those foreign gods are just associates. I am still the presiding judge. Seeing me quickly regain my composure, Zhang Kui nodded in satisfaction. The reason he stopped me was to specifically remind me to take this seriously and not treat it like a joke. Seeing my earlier angry reaction, he was finally relieved. He decided I was trustworthy. After that, Zhang Kui stepped aside, no longer standing in my way. And on the way back, I thought of an excellent plan. That is to livestream the trial across the 3 realms. Let the heavenly court The underworld and the mortal world all witnessed this trial live. Nowadays, few Chinese descendants hold any grudge against Emperor Yingzheng. Some even regard him as a charming ancestor. Also, those millions of resentful souls in the underworld have descendants too. Not to mention, if it comes down to numbers. Even if you combine the underworld and heavenly court, that's still less than a tenth of the people in the mortal world. At that time, as the pros and cons of Yingzheng are shown during the trial, it should not be hard to clear him of injustice. Once I figured it out, I became completely confident. Next, I just need to handle the issue of live broadcasting to the mortal world. Over the following days, using the judge's privileges, I created a brand new identity in the mortal world. Soon I used superpowers to solve the live streaming problem in the mortal world. I decided to disguise the real trial by presenting it as a dialogue between past and present, then broadcast the event as a show for the humans of the world to see. By the time the 10 kings of the underworld found out, it was already too late, because the trial would officially begin tomorrow. Time quickly flew to 8 p.m. the next night. The show Dialogue Through the Ages is about to start, and in the underworld's hearing gallery is packed with great Luo golden immortals, and even some saints, without exception. They were all intrigued by this trial, because this is their first experience with a live stream like this. Some immortals whispered, who would have thought after 1,000 years in seclusion, the human world's technology would be this advanced? But quite a few immortals doubted whether Lin Hao's live-streamed trial would expose the underworld and heavenly court to the human world. Hearing this, Zan Yuanzi, the ancestor of Earth immortals, snorted coldly. There's no need to worry about that. Lin Hao has already taken care of everything. The humans will simply think. This is just a program called Dialogue Through the Ages. As soon as he said that, everyone present quieted down. Given Zan Yuanzi's status, I took the opportunity to say, everyone, regarding today's trial, please pay special attention. Heaven's law forbids any mention of prehistoric times in the mortal world. Upon hearing this, all the immortals grew solemn and dared not even utter another word. But the Western gods didn't care about heaven's law. Hades and the other two were already dissatisfied with this trial because the live stream format basically made them less relevant. They are revered deities in their own countries as well. After seeing Yingzheng, the 3 foreign gods followed tradition and needed to comment on him first. But before commenting, they had to cut off contact with the mortal world. So under Hades' forceful threat, the Oxhead and Horseface responsible for the live broadcast had no choice but to turn off the cameras first. Then Amaterasu stood up abruptly. It's one thing for you to invite me as an assistant judge, but why not allow the prisoner, Yingzheng, to make a statement? Hearing this, I was instantly furious. Such a petty deity from a minor country even dares to insult our Chinese first emperor. At that moment, Hades also sneered coldly. Who would have thought China would let a trainee judge be the chief judge? Have all the Chinese deities died out or what? Although Susanoo said nothing, he also let out a disdainful, sneering laugh. I ignored them and ordered Oxhead and Horseface to resume the broadcast, because I knew to ensure the live broadcast went smoothly, I must first intimidate these 3 foreign judges. So, taking a deep breath, I shouted the name of the demonic Tao at the 3 of them. Are you 3 the chief judges? Or am I the chief judge here? Mere trivial deities, how dare you not shut up before this judge? As soon as I finished, the 3 foreign gods spat blood simultaneously. Under the impact of the demonic Tao's resonance, they were instantly and severely injured. The 10 judges of hell on the side felt relieved, yet they also sensed something was off. How could a trainee judge master the demonic Tao's resonance? All the immortals and demons present instantly went silent. Not one dared to utter another word. After shouting at the top of my lungs, I felt a surge of satisfaction. Then I waved to Oxhead and Horseface, and the broadcast across the 3 realms resumed. A flash of white mist swept by, and all the viewers of the trial suddenly found themselves in the Qin King's palace. This was specially prepared for the mortal audience. After all, if the stream had been set in the underworld, the effect definitely wouldn't be as good. Once everything was ready, I, as the host of the Dialogue Through the Ages show, started the live broadcast. After reading the host script as scheduled, I cast a spell and walked alone to the corridor outside. Today, you will witness a historical milestone with me. Let's journey through the river of history to interview our Supreme Emperor Shi Huang Yingzheng. As soon as I finished, I walked to the end of the corridor, where there was a stone gate. Pushing open the stone door, I saw a magnificent grand hall. At the entrance stood 6 giant bronze cranes. Ancient bronze swords hung all over the hall. In the very center of the hall stood a middle-aged man with his hands behind his back. He was 8 feet tall, wearing the emperor's sword at his waist. Dressed in a black dragon robe, he was the main character of this judgment, Yingzheng. This was a special trial court I designed just for Yingzheng. In fact, the seats around were filled with immortal spectators. It's just that mortals couldn't see any of them. At this moment, Yingzheng slowly turned and looked at me. Then, in a steady voice, he asked, "Who are you?" As soon as he spoke, a faint aura of dragon majesty radiated from him. This is the aura of a true emperor for all ages. Though I was already prepared mentally, the sheer force of the first emperor's presence still deeply shocked me. Still, I quickly regained my composure. Then, I cupped my fists and said, "Junior Lin Hao from 2,000 years in the future." What I didn't know was, the moment mortal viewers saw Yingzheng, all of them felt their scalps tingle, their limbs go weak. This really is the true first emperor Yingzheng, even separated by a screen. It's enough to send chills down your spine. Soon enough, the livestream chat exploded. Where did they find this Yingzheng, anyway? He can completely capture Yingzheng's aura and portray it so vividly and perfectly. This show, Dialogue Through the Ages, is brilliant. I'll watch every episode from now on. This is exactly what I wanted. Everyone across the 3 realms participating in the judgment is the greatest fairness to the first emperor. At that moment, Yingzheng walked slowly toward me. Every step he took was as if the mountains and rivers themselves were quaking. When he stood before me, he asked in confusion, "Since you're from 2,000 years in the future, then tell me, how does posterity judge my name and legacy?" Just as he finished speaking, Yingzheng continued, "Did my great Qin endure for thousands of years in later generations, remaining prosperous for a millennium? Did our Chinese nation dominate the land between the 2 rivers and gaze proudly upon the heavens?" Hearing this, I frowned slightly, wondering how to answer his questions. After a moment's thought, I replied, "Qin Shi Huang Yingzheng died at age 50. Later generations saw the first emperor as harsh and cruel, a warmonger, with laws both strict and severe. Though he expanded territory, he lacked ruling competence, didn't know how to grant his people rest. He burned books and buried scholars alive, as cruel as could be, built extravagant palaces, exhausted the people and squandered resources. His dynasty fell by the second emperor, called 2 generations of tyrants." With these words, Yingzheng was instantly stunned. Then, he drew the imperial sword in a flash, but soon realized he didn't even know who to vent his anger on, for he had no target for his rage. Yingzheng knew in his heart it was natural for later generations to judge him so. Accepting reality, he seemed to age several decades in an instant. At that moment, his stance looked a bit hunched, and there was a sense of heroic loneliness about him. Yet after only a moment, Yingzheng's gaze turned doubtful. "I did so much for the ages. I refused to believe future generations wouldn't understand me." Watching Yingzheng's reaction, I couldn't help but nod to myself. Worthy of the title Emperor of the Ages. So quick to adapt. Then, taking a deep breath, I addressed him again. "First Emperor Yingzheng ascended the throne at 14, unified the land by 39, and laid the foundation for our civilization for generations to come." After listening to me, the previously dispirited Yingzheng suddenly regained a piercing, sharp look in his eyes. Then, I continued, "The first emperor's flaws did not outshine his virtues. He destroyed 2 Zhou dynasties and the feudal states, ascended to supreme rule and unified all realms, governed strictly and enforced his will throughout the world. He seized the lands of Baiyu in the south, built the Great Wall in the north as a barrier, so that the nomads dared not drive their horses south, nor dared raise their bows to complain." After speaking, I locked eyes with Yingzheng. Yingzheng, the greatest figure in Chinese history, ended the warring kings and united the land. At this very moment, Ying Zhang's gaze was like an eagle soaring into the sky, while my look was steady and broad, representing the soul of generations of Han Chinese. Meanwhile, the chat room for dialogue through the ages blew up again. These two actors are incredible. The visuals are absolutely amazing. Still, Ying Zhang's actor outshines the host. After all, it takes real skill to portray the presence of Ying Zhang. Now, this is a show that truly deserves to go viral. Dialogue through the ages. It's much better than those mindless variety shows with idle heartthrobs. In just 3 short minutes, the number of real-time viewers has already surpassed 10 million. In the spectator gallery, many immortals were also deeply moved. Although they were immortals who had lived for tens of thousands of years, after truly immersing themselves in Ying Zhang's deeds, they couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. At this moment, Ying Zhang had also fully regained the confidence of the eternal emperor. On his body, the domineering aura belonging to the first emperor regrouped. Then he spoke and asked, 2,000 years later, "Does anyone know of my final resting place?" Ying Zhang was curious if his mausoleum had been excavated, because it recorded his life's deeds and achievements. Hearing this, I said passionately, "Your tomb is beneath Mount Li. Tens of thousands of terracotta warriors guard it day and night. Your tomb in the present world, with mercury flowing day and night, patrols the 9 provinces of Waxia through the underground gates." After hearing this, Ying Zhang gave a relieved smile. He was very satisfied with this result. Then he stood with his hands behind his back, waved his sleeves and said, "I understand. What else does the junior from a millennium in the future have to say?" Ying Zhang was hinting at me. From the beginning of the trial until now, he had been responding according to my rhythm. Now he needed me to give him some cues. I understood Ying Zhang's meaning. He was pushing the trial along as much as possible, as well as the progress of the Mortal Worlds show. I bowed to Ying Zhang again and said, "Junior, Lin Hao has one more thing. I want to thank the first emperor on behalf of the tens of millions of people in future China." My bowing to the first emperor was perfectly justified, because I am, after all, a descendant of Waxia. But in the eyes of Susanoo, Hades, and even Amaterasu, it was infuriating, because just now I used the demonic sounds of the underworld to intimidate these foreign gods. But now, I was bowing to the soul of a mortal Waxia emperor. The double standard was very obvious. However, these 3 foreign gods were afraid to speak up. On one hand, they feared my underworld voice, and on the other, among the spectators, there was the sage Dao Tianzun. First Emperor Ying Zhang was stunned for a moment, then smiled deeply and said, "People of later generations, why should they thank me? In the minds of those in the future, I am surely nothing more than a cruel and tyrannical ruler." Seeing Ying Zhang's reaction, I quickly waved my hand in denial. "As for those who consider you a tyrant, they are only a small minority. Anyone who understands the big picture knows the broad vision of First Emperor Ying Zhang." First Emperor Ying Zhang ordered the border guards that if the Qin state was in danger, they were not allowed to return to the capital. "You are the eternal emperor. You once said the Qin state could perish, but Waxia must not. That the Waxia people can endure forever is all thanks to the first emperor. How could future generations not thank you?" As my voice fell, Ying Zhang suddenly turned around. The great ancestral dragon of Waxia actually shed tears at this moment. But in just 2 seconds, the first emperor returned to being the supreme sovereign. Seeing this, I continued, "Now, the Waxia nation not only still exists, but also possesses fertile lands far larger than the territory of Qin." Hearing this, Ying Zhang immediately turned back and stared. That glance was like a dragon peeking at the world, making my heart tremble slightly. Then he asked in a questioning tone to confirm, "Junior, answer me truthfully. Does today's Waxia truly still exist?" I replied with a firm expression, "Waxia still exists today." Though my tone wasn't heavy, it hit Ying Zhang's heart like a heavy hammer. But it wasn't a blow. It was genuine excitement and joy. The immortals in the gallery also showed looks of admiration. One had to admit that Ying Zhang protected Waxia even more than these immortals, sheltering all people. The true performance of the Eternal Emperor made many immortals feel ashamed of themselves. At the same time, the TV station director Yin Delu stood up unconsciously. Just as he was about to say something, the technical team called with an emergency. The pilot program channel was overloaded. Should they shut it down or provide more bandwidth? Director Yin Dalu thought for a few seconds and immediately ordered, "Tell all technical departments to divert all controllable traffic and terminal support to the Dialogue Across Time program. Give it the maximum support possible." With this order issued, the popularity of Dialogue Across Time exploded further. More viewers flooded into the live stream. Meanwhile, many in the comments also said they were moved to tears. This show cured my grandmother's epilepsy. The actors the production team found are amazing. It feels like seeing the real Ying Zhang. One comment followed another. The audience was electrified. In the TV station's meeting room, Yin Siming was already stunned. She didn't expect that I could make this show so well. Both the special effects and the actors were impeccable. Right now, the image on the screen continued to play. The conversation between me and the eternal Emperor Ying Zhang continued. Next, I would slowly bring up Ying Zhang's merits and faults to conduct the most impartial trial. After calming down completely, Ying Zhang spoke again. "I have 3 questions. Can the junior clear my doubts? First, the unification of the world began with me. Is it still so in later generations? Since my time, has any descendant shown such political courage? Has anyone been like me?" As his voice fell, the surrounding gods and immortals were all intimidated by his majestic aura. Ying Zhang scanned the surroundings nonchalantly, then asked the second question. "Second, I wish to know if anyone found immortality to establish a foundation for 10,000 generations." This second question was like a stone causing 1,000 ripples. Ying Zhang was now a soul in the underworld, yet he still asked if any mortal emperor had achieved immortality. This was a direct challenge to the authority of the underworld. Mortals are called mortals because they must endure birth, aging, illness, and death. If an emperor could live forever, he would no longer be a mortal emperor, and immortality itself is a provocation to the underworld. Ying Zhang's question clearly lacked respect for the high officials of the underworld. Sure enough, the expressions of the 10 kings of hell turned grim. Ying Zhang took in the reactions of the surrounding deities, but only curled his lips. These minor gods weren't worth his attention. Then Ying Zhang asked the third question, concerning the common people of Waxia, that he could not forget even in the depths of the underworld. "I want to know, are the people of Waxia doing well?" After Ying Zhang finished this sentence, his expression seemed calm and light, but his gaze was fixed on me like a knife. I waved my hand, and a table appeared in the hall. Then I smiled slightly and said, "Please sit, First Emperor. I will tell you everything one by one." After Ying Zhang sat down slowly, he looked at me with a smile on his face. His sharp gaze seemed to pierce through me, pointing directly at the watching immortals. Meanwhile, the viewers in the mortal world started sending comments again. No wonder he's called the greatest emperor of all time. Those 3 questions were really well asked. How will Ling Hao answer them? I'm really curious. After I paused for a moment, I bowed again to the first emperor. Then I stood up straight. "Your Majesty's 3 points truly impress me. I ask Your Majesty to forgive any disrespect. There are now 1.4 billion people. I'm here today to clear up your doubts, Your Majesty." Hearing this, Ying Zhang immediately sat upright. He never expected that, after being trapped in the underworld for 2,000 years, China would actually have 1.4 billion people. Then I opened my mouth to answer the first question. "Are there people like you in later generations?" Forgive me for being direct. Those in later times are even more famous by 10 or 100 times. As soon as I said that, the surrounding deities all looked at me with strange expressions. Even Zhen Yuanzi let out a soft laugh. This kid is quite interesting. The livestream viewers were all completely shocked. As soon as these two started their conversation, it was full of drama. And this was just the first question. Yet I mercilessly gave Emperor Qin a wake-up call. Ying Zhang then became quite interested and asked why I said so. A population of 1.4 billion. 10 times, even 100 times. How could China not unify the world? After I said that, Ying Zhang suddenly slapped the table, then stood up abruptly. "Do you know the crime of deceiving your monarch?" For a moment, dragon energy surged everywhere. This was the first time I truly confronted the Son of Heaven's majesty. One outburst could topple millions. But I spoke calmly. Everything I said is true. It's true that everyone is now 100 times more famous. But human abilities inevitably have their limits. Your Majesty, can you imagine? Shooting an arrow, flying across the sky like a meteor in daylight, straight into the clouds. And when the arrow falls, like a star crashing from the heavens, it can destroy cities and kingdoms. On hearing this, Ying Zhang stepped across the secret mechanism. With a shocked look, he asked, "Is this true?" I didn't answer him. Instead, I continued, "Your Majesty, can you imagine? Ordinary people can now go up to the sky and down to the earth. Flying high above the clouds, what we call the ends of the earth, can be reached in moments." After hearing all this, Ying Zhang's face changed slightly. Everything I said was beyond his imagination. Then I slowly walked up to Ying Zhang. "Your Majesty, can you even imagine? You and I could be thousands of miles apart, yet communicate over great distances. See the magnificent mountains and rivers without even leaving home. Could you have imagined this, Your Majesty? That China can now soar straight up 90,000 miles, all the way to the Moon Palace and back, and can dive 10,000 miles under the sea, to look into the secrets of the deep ocean." Listening to China's tremendous changes, Ying Zhang was beside himself with joy. He circled around me again and again.
He really wanted to go out and see this with his own eyes.
The audience in the living world was also in an uproar. They were all moved to tears. Lin Hao said it perfectly. He just listed all of China's achievements over the years, one by one. It's just like when I tell my elders I won another award. They might not know exactly what the award is, but the moment I use an analogy, they get it right away, and they're happy. It feels like Emperor Qin is now me telling my dad that I work at a science institute. Hard to believe, but so happy. Not even sure how to celebrate. At this moment, the dialogue between ancient and modern show spread rapidly. Word of mouth and popularity soared. It topped every major media search chart. At this time, I smiled and asked what I just said. Is that everyone in later generations is 100 times more famous? Your Majesty, can you accept that? Ying Zhang pondered for a few seconds, then laughed boldly. Excellent. If everyone in China is like this, how could the nation not prosper? Why should people suffer? Now I'd really like to see for myself. What do the skies above the clouds look like today? A dragon's roar quieted the whole hall. At this point, Ying Zhang looked at me with a strange expression again. What you just said? Is it really all true? I smiled at Ying Zhang and replied, "Today, ordinary people have already reached the moon. But this moon isn't the moon palace we know. It's the moon. But the moon is not the moon palace. The moon is full of craters, like a barren desert, lifeless at a glance." After taking a deep breath, Ying Zhang spoke again. The Qin ancestors founded the state. After 100 years of effort, only then did Qin prosper. From the day I ascended the throne, it took 38 years to unite the 6 kingdoms. Just now you said one weapon can destroy a nation. So doesn't that mean you could unite the 6 kingdoms instantly? My Qin soldiers, if they could all do what you said, fly to the sky and go underground, and communicate thousands of miles away, I would surely make that widespread. All the lands of China are royal lands. All the people in the land are royal subjects. When Ying Zhang said this,
He actually looked up to the sky and let out a long roar.
I stood by, smiling and nodding. The first emperor is right. Today, every Chinese citizen is like a dragon. Ying Zhang sighed, saying everyone surpasses me 100-fold. That's wonderful. So what's great about me being the true dragon? Hearing this, I moved, then signaled the ox head and horse face to adjust the camera a bit. So Ying Zhang stood right in the center of the camera. Then I said deeply, however, those who are so famous in later generations still dare not step even half a foot into the first emperor's mausoleum. As soon as I finished, Ying Zhang's expression changed. Is it possible that exploring my tomb is harder than landing on the moon? I told him it's very hard. We still can't open your tomb to catch a glimpse of your true face. I saw the corners of Ying Zhang's mouth curl up slightly. He continued speaking. Although I am surpassed by Qin Shi Huang's technology by 2,000 years, whenever the first emperor is mentioned, I can't help but feel immense admiration. The mausoleum of the first emperor is known as one of the world's top 10 wonders. Unprecedented in history, unrivaled by those who came after. Just the terracotta army alone has prompted countless people to protect it. Countless people admire your unification of the six kingdoms. Even as the years go by, and time continues to pass, the gifts left in the river of time remain. Standardizing vehicles and written language. The Qin dynasty was united, forging the dragon soul of China. To explore the tomb of Qin Shi Huang is indeed harder than landing on the moon. After hearing this, Ying Zhang didn't show the pride I expected, nor did he display the expected joy. He just quietly looked at me. In that instant, Ying Zhang seemed to transcend the earthly realm, as if entering another world. After a moment he sighed deeply. In this life of mine, if I had known things would turn out this way, I would have no regrets. Then, suddenly, Ying Zhang raised his head and laughed, saying, "Even if future generations can explore the heavens and earth, no one can behold my true face. I, Ying Zhang, throughout my life, was worthy of my ancestors, and worthy of those who followed." As soon as he said this, the surrounding gods and Buddhas glanced at each other in surprise. The god of war Bai Qi even rested his chin in his hand, proud of Ying Zhang. Lang Shen almost bested the true lord. Yang Jian wasn't caught in anyone's spell at the moment, and although his expression was unclear, one could still sense his dissatisfaction. Many other immortals were also indignant. The 10 kings of the underworld imprisoned Ying Zhang in the underworld for thousands of years, which was truly going too far. The audience watching the live stream on Earth were deeply moved. The effect of this show is simply explosive. It gets your blood pumping. I have to admit, this is the best show in over a year. From props to actors, everything is perfect. Back at the TV station, Yin Siming has even suggested that I should be trained as the flagship host afterwards, because I solved the problem using supernatural abilities. The staff at the station didn't have high hopes for this program, but who could have imagined that? After just 10 or so minutes of broadcasting, the online viewership had already broken 30 million. Meanwhile, I had already thought through how to answer the first emperor's second question. The first emperor asked if anyone had attained immortality or established an everlasting dynasty. My answer as a representative of China's rulers is, no one has achieved immortality. When Ying Zhang heard this, a look of disappointment grew in his eyes. You should know the first emperor yearned for immortality in his lifetime. Seeing this, I quickly added, but someone did achieve the creation of an everlasting dynasty. As soon as these words fell, Ying Zhang suddenly raised his head and asked, "Who accomplished this great feat?" I gave a slight smile and pointed to the first emperor himself standing in front of me. China has an everlasting dynasty, but it wasn't founded by you. Then I waved both hands, and a white mist appeared before us. Inside the mist were scenes of the first emperor unifying the 6 kingdoms. Next came the Ca-Juhan contention, the 3 kingdoms, the chaos of the Sui and Tang, the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms, and finally Zhu Yuanzhang rebuilding China. 1,000 years of dynastic rise and fall, all settled down within a few seconds. After the mist disappeared, only the 2 of us remained standing in the empty grand hall. I then said, an everlasting dynasty has indeed existed since ancient times, but it was united by you, and then passed down to the descendants. This everlasting dynasty doesn't belong to one clan or surname, nor to one kingdom or place, nor to a single era. The everlasting dynasty is precisely China itself. For thousands of years, we have never forgotten, nor dared forget what our ancestors left us. I watched as Ying Zhang took a step back. Then he suddenly raised his arm and shouted, "Our ancestors created the brilliant Chinese civilization. How can we dare disgrace the name of China? Our ancestors won back our land from the hands of barbarians. We must never forget. Our ancestors guarded our country with blood and tears against foreign invaders. So how can we not contribute to Chinese civilization? In hopes that one day, we can proudly declare we have lived up to our ancestors." In the conference room on Earth, Yin Dalu slammed the long table and applauded. What an everlasting dynasty! This is China. What a brilliant China! The livestream chat and comment section also went wild. I was moved to tears, thinking about my wasted life. I really feel I have let my ancestors down. Right now, I just want to shout my ambitions out the window. I'm just afraid I won't be louder than the speakers on the plaza. Half an hour after the show began, the entire internet was buzzing with ancient modern dialogue. Inside the judgment hall, my conversation with Ying Zhang was still ongoing, but it was mostly building up the atmosphere and showing off, all for the final climax. From the very beginning, my intention was clear: to use this conversation and Ying Zhang broadcasting the trial as a precedent, to allow the three realms, heaven, earth, and man, to participate together. This is so that in the future, for the ancestors and heroes, we can ask for fairness. Heaven is impartial, but values fair cause and effect above all. The underworld judges one's deeds in life and makes decisions about one's fate after death. It's just that some people's actions are so far-reaching that even the underworld can't rule without considering karma. That's why so many heroes have been suppressed underground and remain unjudged. The mortal world worries me the least, yet I can't ignore it. Heaven will never allow deities to harm mortals, so the safety of humans is guaranteed. Naturally, there won't be any gods coercing mortals or making false decisions. So to keep everyone's attention locked in, I had to give it my absolute focus on Ying Zhang. My words just now completely woke Ying Zhang up. He suddenly burst into loud laughter at the sky. Let China last for all eternity. Even if the world is my enemy, what of it? Mortals cannot see the dragon spirit of the Great Wall. But right at this moment, the dragon spirit awoke. Then Ying Zhang reached out his right hand and patted my left shoulder. I still don't know your name,
He said. Hearing this, I solemnly cupped my hands to him.
I'm Lin Hao, a promising youth. Ying Zhang sighed twice. #1 under heaven in China. He was very pleased with my respectful attitude. Then he turned away and asked, "Do you have an answer to my third question?" I pondered for a moment, and then boldly answered the first emperor's third question. After hearing that I was going to answer, for the first time, Ying Zhang's face showed reluctance. Uniting the 6 kingdoms sounds majestic, but those 4 words contain countless mountains of corpses and seas of blood, families destroyed and people dead. Before taking the throne, Ying Zhang had to flee many times. So he understands the suffering war brings to the people. Ying Zhang wanted to create an everlasting dynasty and drive the Xiongnu beyond the Great Wall. But that meant putting a heavy burden on the common folk. So life for the people was hard. Ying Zhang felt he owed the people a great deal. That's why he asked, "Are my subjects well?" I straightened up and replied, "To answer the first emperor, the people have suffered." After hearing this, Ying Zhang gave a bitter smile. Even after escaping my rule, my people still suffer? His disappointment was written on his face. Never mind that the gentlemen around us didn't understand my answer. Even the Chinese people I spoke for didn't understand what I, Ming Hao, meant. On what grounds does he say, "Our lives are bitter"? How could he tell Qin Shi Huang that future generations suffer? Are we not happy now? Lin Hao has amazed me all night. How did he slip up on the final question? Then I spoke softly, looking toward the western capital. I hesitate in sorrow. Where the Qin and Han passed, 10,000 palaces have all turned to dust. In prosperity, the people suffer. In ruin, the people suffer. Then I said calmly, the people of future generations no longer worry about survival, nor about the bitter winter or scorching summer. With food full of color, aroma, and taste, pursuing splendor and magnificence. These words left Ying Zhang confused. Since they do not lack food or clothing, then where does the people's suffering lie? Subsequently, I said loudly, our future generations do not lack food or clothing, but we suffer from being controlled by others. So we strive tirelessly for self-improvement. We suffer from being coerced by others. So we work desperately to strengthen our military. We suffer from the thirst for knowledge. So we desperately explore the unknown. We suffer because our ancestors endured great humiliation. So we cry out with all our might. If the youth are strong, the nation will be strong. We suffer from foreign bullying. So the sleeping lion has awakened. I stared unyieldingly at Ying Zhang, first emperor. You ask where the suffering of future generations lies? This is exactly where the suffering of the people of Waxia lies. Hearing this, Ying Zhang's expression changed in shock. He never expected future generations to suffer in such a way. Many of the deities around showed looks of shame, because, in the end, they were also the gods of Waxia. Only Bai Qi looked at the 72nd god with a cold sneer. The 72nd god never expected that being a bystander would turn him into the focus. For a moment, he felt quite restless. The audience in the mortal world was also momentarily speechless. Then, the bullet chats in the live stream overwhelmed the screen like an avalanche. Zero's three answers are textbook perfect, unprecedented and unmatched. When he said the people suffer, I knew he would have more world-shaking words. Suffering because ancestors endured humiliation. So we cry out, if the youth are strong, the nation will be strong. This sentence really wakes people up from their dreams, suffering from foreign bullying. So the sleeping lion awakens. This sentence made me suddenly feel an electric shock through my whole body. It's truly exhilarating. At this moment, Ying Zhang's eyes were full of regret. These three questions and answers gave Ying Zhang new insights. I opened up a whole new world for Ying Zhang, providing Ying Zhang with a brand new stage. Now, Ying Zhang has not only regained his fighting spirit, but has also reawakened the dragon soul of the Great Wall.
Inside the interrogation hall,
Silence reigned all around. The eternal emperor Ying Zhang stood face to face with me. The livestream bullet chats were like a torrential storm, washing over everyone's screens. I originally thought about sleeping after watching this. But how can I sleep after such a soul-stirring conversation? Lin Hao summed up the 2,000 years of hardship and pain in just a few sentences. I dare say Lin Hao has become a legend with this performance. Now I'm just curious about which masters are behind the scenes of this show. If future episodes maintain this quality, I promise not to miss a single one. The strong reaction to the show was evident. Dialogue across time soon gained immense popularity in the real world. Even real history experts were watching. Among them was a historian named Lu Weigweng, who was already in tears. The old man is known as the leading figure in Huaxia history research.
he has dedicated his life to the study of Chinese history.
When he heard where the suffering of future Huaxia people lay, his eyes were already filled with tears. During the uprising of the 5 barbarians, the people were called two-legged sheep. It was the order to execute the barbarians by Ran Min, the heavenly king of Wudao, that saved the people of the Central Plains. At the end of the Song dynasty, the emperor was captured and pleaded to be a slave, and princesses were treated worse than pigs. The people of the Great Ming stayed with their country, dying for their nation in the rivers. My Huaxia has suffered for so long. Huaxia suffered from being controlled by others, and we strove tirelessly for self-improvement. The old man slapped his leg hard, lamenting that it wasn't him standing before Ying Zhang right now. At this moment, the old man only wanted to take my place, to weep and tell Ying Zhang of the Dragon Kingdom's 2,000 years of hardships. Inside the CCTV conference room, Yin Dalu was also fired up by my words. Just then, someone rushed into the conference room and shouted loudly, 80 million people are watching right now. Without a doubt, dialogue across time will become a trump card for CCTV, and this Zero will become a key talent to support.
It was already 8:40 p.m.
Only 20 minutes left in the show. In this final window of time, I need to stir the audience's emotions once again and give Ying Zhang the fairest verdict. Inside the judgment hall, Ying Zhang's face was as deep as water. At this moment, his emotions were extremely complex. I hadn't explained any single event in detail, just mentioning them in passing. But what kind of man was Ying Zhang? How could he not hear how many tribulations Huaxia had suffered over these 2,000 years? At the same time, Ying Zhang also heard the resilience of Huaxia in the face of those tribulations over the 2 millennia. After a long silence, Ying Zhang spoke slowly. I understand now. You say the people's suffering is in the bone, not the skin, in the heart, not the body. Therefore, I wish to see it with my own eyes. I bowed slightly and
Asked,
what does the first emperor wish to see? Ying Zhang sighed and replied, I want to see with my own eyes exactly what the land of Huaxia looks like today. This ruler who once reigned supreme, the emperor who suppressed an entire era. Finally, after the 3 questions and answers, set aside his imperial pride, Ying Zhang's gaze passed behind me, as if piercing through the barrier of yin and yang. At this moment, a dragon shadow flickered behind him, as if a true dragon had reappeared. Then Ying Zhang turned his gaze back to my face and said, I once gave the command, and 1,000,000 Qin soldiers and civilians rushed to the borders to build the Great Wall. Whether I live or die, I will ensure the veins of this Huaxia land. Keep my Huaxia unified. I once sought immortality, but immortality is but a dream. If I can witness the prosperity of Waxia 1,000 years later, even if I must remain in the 9 netherworlds, what of it? Ying Zhang did not care what price this promise would cost him. He simply stared at me with burning eyes. I knew that if I were to agree, then Ying Zhang's soul would fall into the 9 netherworlds, never to be reincarnated. Seeing my silence, Ying Zhang spoke again. Though I have not personally experienced the pain of my Waxia, but I can still witness the prosperous age of my Waxia today. I built the Great Wall to protect the people of Waxia for a time.
Today,
I only ask that though I cannot lead armies and draw my sword against enemies after death, I may still protect the prosperity and glory of my Waxia for 10,000 generations from the underworld, and guard the eternal peace and health of the people of Waxia, whether you agree today or not. After saying this, the dragon shadow behind Ying Zhang almost became tangible. Every time Ying Zhang spoke, it sounded like a dragon's roar, each sound almost piercing through yin and yang, reaching deep into the hearts of every viewer in the Dragon Kingdom. Ying Zhang wanted to see that dragon soul reborn from the ashes. He was so desperate to see how today's Waxia had grown to such heights. Inside the live stream, no one knew what price Ying Zhang would pay for his soul to descend into the 9 netherworlds. They only kept saying, "First Emperor, please accept my kowtow." 80 million viewers. Everyone was shocked beyond words. The majesty of the ancestral dragon was truly terrifying. Every word spoken by Ying Zhang makes the audience feel as if waves are crashing upon them. It's as if each person's heart stands tall with a commanding presence. Inside the interrogation hall, after Ying Zhang's last syllable fell, the runes beneath his feet were nearly erased by the dragon's aura. But because the dragon's aura shielded it, no one had noticed yet. So Ying Zhang realized the netherworld could no longer keep him suppressed. I simply let out a long sigh. I knew Ying Zhang was free to leave now, but he chose not to break free from the cage. So after I nodded, I asked in a deep voice, addressed to the First Emperor, "Is it necessary to watch?" At this moment, the gods and demons seated in the gallery were also watching me intently. They wanted to know, too, what the outcome of this judgment would be. Meanwhile, the 10 kings of the underworld still looked grim. They were furious at my ruthless handling of the trial, but knew they couldn't interfere. At the same time, Ying Zhang firmly declared, "I must see." His imperial aura remained undiminished as he spoke. This Chinese dragon's might is the voice of 1.4 billion Chinese people, and their faith in the dragon spirit. At this moment, whatever Ying Zhang wants to do represents the will of 1.4 billion people. Therefore, I decided to respect Ying Zhang's choice. So I spoke, addressed to the First Emperor, "Please lend me the Great Qin Imperial Seal."
hearing this,
Ying Zhang's brow twitched. He had been dead for more than 2,000 years. How could there still be an imperial seal to pass on? The imperial seal has always been the symbol of power and authority for competing dynasties. After Ying Zhang died, the seal would never accompany him for long. If he truly had the imperial seal, no one in the 3 realms and 6 paths could possibly keep the mighty Chinese ancestral dragon captive. My sudden request for the seal left Ying Zhang unsure how to reply. The next moment, I directly faced Ying Zhang and used magic to create an imperial seal. Ying Zhang shook his head slightly at the sight. He immediately understood what I meant. After all, conversations on the mortal side still needed something for ancient modern programs. Some special measures. The mortals can't truly know about the existence of the 3 realms and 6 paths. So once again, Ying Zhang cooperated with me to play his part in the program. As for lending the imperial seal for effect, take it as you wish. Once he finished, Ying Zhang flicked his hand. In the blink of an eye, the fake imperial seal was condensed by Ying Zhang as a vessel. It became an almost real imperial seal as a vessel. The fake seal, now enhanced as a vessel, hovered in my hand, making it feel as heavy as 10,000 pounds. Ying Zhang watched me with keen interest. He was curious what I intended to do with the fake imperial seal. After all, he had only heard that technology in the mortal world is advancing rapidly these days. But that's all just hearsay. He's never seen it for himself. Naturally, he doesn't know what a live program is, nor does he understand what message I wish to convey to mortals with the imperial seal. After taking a deep breath, I observed the seal carefully. Then, with the seal as a medium, using Ying Zhang's dragon aura, I broke through the barrier between yin and yang after 1,000 years. Next, I planned to take Ying Zhang to the mortal world, to witness the splendor of modern China. At that moment, Amaterasu's eyes filled with horror. After all, the might of the Chinese dragon is not something little spirits and deities could ever face head-on. Then I raised the imperial seal and loudly declared, I borrow the first emperor's imperial seal. I borrow the imperial seal of the nation, to wish for a glorious era for the future people of China. When the words were finished, I swung the seal downward forcefully. As the imperial seal touched the table, waves rippled forth. Suddenly, the ripples froze in place and instantly shattered. With that strike, I broke through the barrier between yin and yang. Then I led the ancestral dragon across the fissure of time and space, and we found ourselves floating above the mortal world. Then I pointed below. First Emperor, please look. This is Chang'an, the ancient capital of 6 dynasties. Below was a modern city brimming with historical charm. The streets were bustling with traffic. Crowds of people walked endlessly. Then I explained to Ying Zhang. This is Chang'an, the ancient capital of 6 dynasties in later generations. Though it has seen many wars, it was reborn from the flames, and is now more prosperous and splendid than ever. Upon seeing this, Ying Zhang couldn't help but praise. Amazing, these towering buildings are even grander than the Yipeng Palace. After all, Ying Zhang was of the Warring States era. He had never seen such a modern spectacle. He had to admit he was completely stunned. Next, I took him to Fucheng. The sights here left Ying Zhang even more astonished. Without lingering too long, I brought Ying Zhang to the skies above the dragon capital of China. From above, looking down at the city, a long avenue spanned the entire city, with dense streets all around, interconnecting in all directions. Ying Zhang was delighted by the dense population. In the Qin dynasty, population meant productivity and military might. So seeing so many people, he couldn't help but feel joy. At this moment, I began to introduce. This is the current capital of China, Dragon Capital. This avenue spanning the city is called Chang'an Street. It's the sacred ground where countless people chase their dreams. It gathers countless talented figures. It's the most fiercely competitive scholarly sanctuary. As the initial trial neared its end, next, I led Ying Zhang across China's vast territory, appreciating local customs and cultures. Everywhere we went, he compared each place with his memories of Great Qin. The magnitude of change, without exception, made Ying Zhang marvel at how times have changed. Even today's territory is much larger than in Qin times, which made him even more impressed by China's strength. As I traveled with Ying Zhang through time and space, and arrived above the vast rice-producing regions of the south, Ying Zhang was amazed to see plump grains of rice swaying in the fields with the gentle breeze. Such land is capable of such abundant harvests. Ying Zhang searched his memories repeatedly, and finally remembered. In Qin times, this place was called the Land of Barbarians, filled with toxic miasma and plague.
Now,
thanks to generations of scientists and scholars working tirelessly, they have painstakingly transformed it, and it has long since become a fertile land rich with grain and fish. With magic, I manifested a stalk of rice in the air, and gently passed it to Ying Zhang. First Emperor, this is the high-yield rice developed and cultivated by a great person in modern times. After a lifetime of hard work, this rice can yield up to 1,000 pounds per acre. Ying Zhang was instantly startled, his eyes wide open, hands tightly clenched, trembling with excitement, and the words were not false. I placed my left hand behind me. To speak for the record, naturally, it's true. Hearing my firm answer, Ying Zhang nodded in excitement. So that person you mentioned truly is a giver of life. China has always valued its grain reserves, and the amount of grain is what establishes the foundation of a great nation. As the emperor of the ages, Ying Zhang, more than anyone in history, understood the importance of food. So more than anyone, he admired the person who increased rice yield per acre. Unfortunately, I didn't tell Ying Zhang the name of that great person. Of course, Ying Zhang didn't press for it. He wasn't someone who chased after details. Besides, just because you meet doesn't mean you have to know each other. If you haven't met before, why insist on acquaintance? As long as we're all people of the Dragon Nation, as long as we strive for the prosperity of the dragon nation. We're all descendants of the divine dragon. At this moment, Ying Zheng looked as if intoxicated with madness. He never expected there would be such a person in China. How could China ever fear it wouldn't flourish? Viewers in front of the screens, watching Fan Chen's efforts being recognized one by Ying Zheng, a sense of honor instantly surges. Then seeing the mighty first emperor hold the Yangs in such high regard, the viewers can't help but have their eyes well up with tears. Many people are even wiping away tears while sending comments. All the viewers are deeply moved by Ying Zheng's actions. This feeling of hearing praise from elders firsthand. What is that all about? I feel like I'm back in my childhood, still that carefree child. Seeing the first emperor of Qin shocked by our skyscrapers, my heart aches, wanting to cry that the efforts of later generations were not in vain. To personally hear our ancestors recognize us. No regrets in this life. Only now do I feel the importance of heritage, thinking of our ancestors fighting bloody battles, all to pass down Chinese civilization to the next generation. I'm suddenly filled with passion. Don't know when it started. The viewers in front of their phones have actually started to gradually treat actor Ying Zheng as if he were the real Ying Zheng. What a pity. Ordinary viewers have no idea there are any actors involved. That was actually Ying Zheng himself. But how the viewers see it is no longer important. What matters is Ying Zheng's performance is enough to create a huge resonance among viewers, even inspire a strong sense of national pride. Unfortunately, this is a trial episode. The airtime is a mere 1 hour. With all the running around with Ying Zheng, there are only a few minutes left of the show. Now it's time to wrap up the program, which means it's time to give the verdict for the preliminary trial. Then I softly addressed Ying Zheng, saying, "First Emperor, time's up. Time to return." Ying Zheng smiled easily and flung his robe dramatically, then turned his back to me and headed back to the palace. The words "return to the palace" actually mean returning to the judgment hall in the underworld. This so-called return to the palace is just for the viewers in the mortal world. But I once again used a spell and directly conjured a chariot for Ying Zheng, an azure dragon pulling the carriage, with 9 dragon heads, for the vast Chinese civilization. No one is more worthy of riding these 9 dragon chariots. I bowed slightly and said, "Emperor Qin, please get in." That bow didn't represent my position as a judge in the underworld, but instead stood in for the people of Longguo in the mortal realm, to show the proper respect to the first emperor. After Ying Zheng stepped into the carriage, he raised his arm and shouted, "Set off." Then I opened a portal between the realms, so the Dragon Emperor could return to the underworld smoothly. Soon after, we returned to the judgment hall of Qin King's palace in the underworld. In the center, the celestial beings seated in the viewing stands all stared intently at Long Yin. Even though they thought Ying Zheng was a bit showy, they still didn't dare say a word. After all my arrangements, the celestial beings had now witnessed Ying Zheng's towering reputation in mortal China. Such high renown. Few beings in the heavens can match it. It's important to know that every immortal's cultivation doesn't just depend on personal strength, but also on the power of faith. Clearly, as the hidden one who's also the first emperor, he carries the faith of countless people of Longguo. And now the celestial beings are no longer impatient. They also want to see how I will judge the hidden one. This trial, can it even be considered a real trial anymore? Worthy of the title First Emperor for the ages, Ying Zheng's great achievements are immeasurable. So-called trial naturally turns into a praise session. After the dragon carriage stopped, Ying Zheng slowly got out. He still didn't look at the surrounding celestials, not even a glance at the main gate. But Ying Zheng actually understood deep down, even though this was only the first trial, and my performance broke with all conventions, it still couldn't change the outcome of the trial. A trial must have a result. Since it's a trial, now Ying Zheng awaits only my verdict from this first trial. I quietly observed Ying Zheng and noticed calmness appear on his face when he saw me looking at him. Ying Zheng sighed and said, "It's you who let me know that my life was not in vain." With that, he took a deep breath, then loudly proclaimed, "I ascended the throne at 13, confronted Li Yibue on my own, then destroyed the 6 kingdoms, and unified the land. Built the Great Wall, kept the enemies outside the Great Wall. In life I protected the Chinese people. In death, I still want to keep China's lands. When Ying Zheng got to this part, he paused briefly, then shouted, I only want China to last forever. Therefore, I am meritorious and not guilty. I do not accept any judgment. Hearing Ying Zheng say this, Oxhead and Horseface hurriedly stopped recording the video to prevent scenes inappropriate for the ancient modern dialogue show from being exposed to mortal viewers. In the mortal world they discovered, the show suddenly ended its recording. Yin Delu, Yin Siming, and other organizers quickly responded to plan the conclusion for the first broadcast of ancient modern dialogue. 30 seconds later, Yin Siming appeared before the audience. Vast Chinese civilization, 5,000 years of history, countless heroes and legends, emperors and generals. Their stories are passed down through the ages, going back to their eras, witnessing their glory. That's what the ancient modern dialogue show is about. Today's program comes to an end. The time for the next broadcast will be announced. Let's look forward to it together. At this moment, I also announced the verdict for Ying Zheng. First Emperor Ying Zheng swept across the land, dominated all directions, unified the world, laid the foundation for all generations to come, standardized writing and vehicles, built the Great Wall and drove off the Xiongnu, created a united China, which began with Ying Zheng. I paused briefly, then exhaled and said, though not perfect, the first emperor's virtues outweigh his flaws. In my view, he left great achievements for future generations. He cannot be lightly condemned. So a second trial is required. Moreover, we must also listen to the opinions of later generations. As soon as I finished speaking, some of the celestials became dissatisfied. As for Amaterasu, Susanoo, and others, they hesitated to speak up because they'd been subdued by my demonic Tao title before, and held their tongues. Meanwhile, one of the 10 Yama kings, Juanlun Wang, glared angrily and sternly shouted, ignorant child. Ying Zheng seized cities in a bloody campaign and died tragically. The grievances of his victims number well over 1 million. How could he be judged so lightly? In my opinion, Ying Zheng must be harshly punished. Juanlun Wang's words rallied the other dissatisfied celestials to speak up first. The other Yama kings and 3 foreign gods all chimed in, trying to strictly prosecute Ying Zheng's crimes. I replied without any fear. As the judge for the first emperor, how he is judged is my duty, and not for others to interfere. Wenjiao Wang was furious at my response. Anger rose to his heart immediately, just as he was about to shout. In the depths of the underworld, inside the judgment hall, suddenly rang out an ancient and venerable voice of heaven, the leader of the demonic sect, Red Army of Creation. When the celestials heard it, they immediately grew solemn. Even the face of Supreme Lord of Morality became serious. Even Ying Zheng couldn't help but frown slightly, because the speaker was the Red Army itself. After the declaration poem ended, Red Army pronounced his decree to uphold Judge Ling Hao's verdict. With Red Army's decree issued, even if the Yama kings were displeased, they dared not show it. I was overjoyed at this. With this decree, the judgment of Emperor Ying Zheng is highly unpredictable, so I dare not take responsibility. I hurriedly ordered the underworld messengers to escort Ying Zheng back to his cell. But when the messengers got within 10 meters of Ying Zheng, they no longer dared to approach. After all, the imposing aura of the first emperor isn't something 2 low-ranking ghost messengers can withstand. Ying Zheng glanced at the messengers before him, then said, I will return by myself. After saying this, Ying Zheng clasped his hands behind his back and walked in the direction of the 9 nether prison. As I watched him leave, Ying Zheng's figure gradually faded from view. Having seen the God of Healing's judgment conclude, all the immortals began to leave with their own methods. After King Lun Zhao gave me a hostile look, he left in anger, flicking his sleeves. Thus, the judgment on the first Emperor Ying Zheng officially ended. Even though many people were dissatisfied with my verdict and expressed many objections, with Hongzhen's decree passed down, they could only let it go. After the first trial ended, Amaterasu did not rush to leave the underworld, for one simple reason. Regarding my verdict on Ying Zheng in the first trial, Amaterasu was very displeased. So she went deep into the prison to find Xiang Yu. It's known that Xiang Yu deeply hated Ying Zheng during his life, and after death turned into a fierce ghost. If he learned of my godly absolution, he would never let it go easily. However, as a god of a mere small territory, Amaterasu had no right to go into the prison at all. Therefore, Amaterasu privately contacted King Lun Juan, one of the 10 lords of Yama. King Lun Juan also resented my verdict, so the two hit it off without hesitation. With a wave of his hand, King Lun Juan summoned 2 of his underworld enforcers. Soon the 2 ghost messengers escorted Amaterasu and arrived at the cell holding Xiang Yu. After Xiang Yu was transformed into a fierce ghost, Yuji played the role of balance, which kept him relatively restrained. But earlier, I had assigned Yuji a job as my secretary. So right now Xiang Yu was furious. The moment he saw Amaterasu, Xiang Yu immediately roared, "Amaterasu, you will pay." Amaterasu stopped about 10 meters away from Xiang Yu. The first trial for Ying Zheng is over. To Xiang Yu, the name Ying Zheng was like a fuse, instantly igniting the 1,000-year grudge deep within him. Xiang Yu roared again, and a terrifying wave of ghostly aura swept out. Amaterasu took half a step back, her face showing fear. She hadn't expected Xiang Yu's fury to be so intense. After about 15 minutes, Xiang Yu finally calmed down from his wrath. His crimson eyes stared fixedly at Amaterasu, as if waiting for her to continue. Amaterasu let out a long breath and slowly said, "In the first trial, Ying Zheng was judged to have more merit than fault. So a second trial will be held. The opinions of future generations will also be considered. And the judge for the retrial is still the same probationary underworld judge from the first trial. This judge is incredibly friendly toward Ying Zheng, to the point where I even suspect Lin Hao is colluding with Ying Zheng." Xiang Yu, shackled by the 10,000-year netherworld cold iron, gripped his chains tightly, making them clang and tremble. Sensing the overwhelming evil spirit in front of him, Amaterasu went on. "And as for your so-called forbiddens, Yuji, I'm afraid she has already spent the night in someone else's bed." Although Amaterasu didn't know Yuji's exact situation, she said it anyway, her only intent to infuriate Xiang Yu further. Hearing this pushed the fierce ghost Xiang Yu over the edge. Ruthless ghost energy erupted out, and Yama kings like Yanluo, Chujiang, and Qin Guang immediately sensed the unrest from the depths of the prison. They were about to go investigate, but King Lun Juan, prepared in advance, blocked them. "Colleagues, let me handle this personally. You all take care of other matters." King Lun Juan then found a few excuses and changed the topic in several ways, making the Yama kings of the underworld ponder for a moment and drop any further thoughts about it. Xiang Yu vented for half an hour straight, until the crimson in his eyes gradually faded. Even as a fierce ghost, Xiang Yu still retained a shred of reason.
He guessed that this minor god before him had ulterior motives for seeking him out.
He suspected there was nothing pure about this visit. Seeing that Xiang Yu had regained some rationality, Amaterasu instantly took out a prepared treasure and carefully handed it to the fierce ghost. Xiang Yu then said, "When the second trial comes, use the treasure to unleash your power and disrupt the proceedings. You could even assassinate Ying Zheng and avenge the state of Xiaoju." With Ying Zheng's first trial concluded, I returned to my residence in the underworld. Yuji had already made some tea waiting for me. She knew I went to try Ying Zheng, so she must have been anxious. It's normal for her to worry about my safety. As a probationary judge, I'm under pressure from the 10 Yama kings and various immortals. It's really not easy. I leaned on the sofa and took a sip of tea, really enjoying having Yuji as my secretary. The tea is top quality too. All my stress faded away in its aroma. Some immortals, like Hong Jun, didn't even show up at the first trial. The highest status was Tai Shang Laojun, Lord of Morality, followed by Zhenyuan Daxian. There was also the God of Justice, Yang Jian, and other immortals of high rank. But they couldn't help much in this matter. I ignored the 10 Yoma kings and the 3 foreign gods altogether. The best strategy now is to go to Shaoying Mountain and ask Lord Taishang Laojun for help. With that in mind, I set off at once and headed straight for Shaoying Mountain. Yuji didn't expect me to leave in such a hurry. The tea in her cup was still hot. By then, I was already out of the 9 nether underworld. Over half a day later, I arrived, and Laojun immediately sensed my presence, using his powers to bring me over. I felt my surroundings blur for a moment, and suddenly I was transported before him. At close range, looking at Laojun, I nodded to myself in admiration. The great lord of morality, dressed plainly as he walks the mortal world, is just like an ordinary old man, but with otherworldly bearing. I bowed respectfully and introduced myself. Lin Hao, probationary judge of the underworld, pays respect to Lord Taishang Laojun. Laojun nodded calmly and told me to skip the formalities. After seeing the first trial, Laojun had an excellent impression of me. He immediately asked if my visit concerned the follow-up on Ying Zhang's judgment. I answered at once that it was. Laojun then said that throughout his life, Ying Zhang achieved extraordinary feats, but his hands are stained with too much blood. If not handled properly, millions of vengeful souls in the underworld will certainly rebel. If that happens, the underworld itself will be held responsible. And you won't escape heaven's punishment either. Laojun's words hit the mark directly, pointing out the most critical issue. Why is judging Ying Zhang so difficult? For one thing, his life was legendary, with both great accomplishments and immense bloodshed. For another, various factions, Taoist, Confucian, Heavenly Realm, and Western Buddhism, all have a stake in the matter. He didn't have many immortal allies, but plenty of religious adversaries. Moreover, generals like Zhou Yu and Bai Qi, the killing god of Qin, are present. Personally, I don't think Ying Zhang is guilty, and don't want to condemn him to major sin. But he was the main instigator of the infamous burning of books and burying of scholars. If I choose not to convict him, the Confucian faction will never be satisfied. This makes the case extremely tricky. However, Ying Zhang's achievements are already recognized by all three realms. I am eager for Laojun's guidance, so I sincerely ask the Lord for clear direction. Laojun doesn't have strong personal feelings about Ying Zhang, but for a promising junior like myself, he thinks highly of me. He offered his advice, but made it clear it was just a suggestion and a way to establish goodwill. I stayed silent for a few seconds, then slowly suggested letting Ying Zhang apply for World Heritage status for the Great Wall. I was a bit shocked when I heard that. The Great Wall is a World Cultural Heritage Site. It's the #1 ancient military engineering feat in Longguo, and it was personally ordered and supervised for construction by the first emperor Ying Zhang. If Ying Zhang could apply for the Great Wall's heritage status, there would be too many benefits. First, he wouldn't be judged for his alleged crimes. For Ying Zhang, no one in the world is qualified to judge him, not even the sages. Second, after the application for the Great Wall, the originally lifeless Great Wall would gradually gain spiritual energy, bringing even more prosperity to future generations. Third, this would silence the 10 Yoma kings and other immortals who disagree. Although Ying Zhang doesn't care how future generations see him, he cares deeply about the lives of common people in the future. If the Great Wall really gains spiritual energy, he could always protect the generations to come, witnessing the rise of the Eastern Lion, step by step towards revival, step by step towards greatness. Coming to me for guidance this time was definitely worth it. I quickly stood up and bowed again to thank the Celestial Lord for clearing my doubts. The scene shifts to the headquarters of the Northern Xinjiang Nation Imperial Capital Central TV, just before Ying Zhang's second trial. I need to contact the head of Central TV to finalize the live broadcast time for the next Dialogue Across Ages episode. Then I teleported back to my rental apartment, opened my phone's contact list, and called Yin Siming. Yin Siming, please cooperate and communicate normally with me. At this point, both Yin Siming and the other deputy directors at Central TV treat me with extra importance. I said the second episode is scheduled to start airing in 5 days. Please help arrange the timing. I'll still handle the show's production on my own. I spoke rather fast, not giving Yin Siming any chance to reply. I planned to hang up right after speaking. Yin Siming hurriedly and anxiously called out twice, afraid that if I hung up, they wouldn't be able to reach me again. After all, I've done this before, he shouted at the phone. Wait a minute. You need to give me a specific schedule and plan for the second episode. I spoke calmly and said, if you want to take this project, it's yours. If you don't want to cooperate, I can find someone else. After I finished, Yin Siming was stunned for a moment, then quickly adapted and said, that's fine too. I won't interfere with your arrangements for the show. Then, unexpectedly, their tone became a bit more pleading and asked if we could meet up. I'll treat you to a cup of coffee. Hope you don't mind taking just half an hour. I sighed a little and agreed. This is a small thing I can accept. To me, Yin Siming is quite useful. On the other end of the phone, Yin Siming was thrilled that I agreed to meet and jumped up in excitement. Immediately gave the address of a cafe near the TV station. Of course, inviting me for coffee isn't just about business. She also has her own motives. Previously, she boasted in front of many executives at Central TV. Now is her chance to redeem herself. She simply feels, with her fairly attractive looks, her composed demeanor and family background, she has a good chance if she takes the initiative with me. An hour later, in a private booth at the cafe, I sat across from Yin Siming. My intentions were clear, immediately discussing the details for the second episode. Seeing this, Yin Siming didn't bring up anything else. We talked through various details of the program, finally scheduled it for next Friday, to air at the 8 p.m. prime time slot. Once we finished the business, I got up to leave, but Yin Siming stopped me. He stammered and asked me if we could talk a bit longer. I didn't know what else was on his mind. I asked if it was about work. Hadn't we already sorted everything out? What else is there? Hearing my question, he pouted and mumbled that it's nothing official. Can I just chat a bit more with you? I frowned slightly. Only then did I realize he might have feelings for me. Noticing I stopped for a moment, Yin Siming decided to just confess and said, I like you to me.
Hearing this,
I immediately regretted not simply leaving earlier. She's sweet looking, comes from a good family. My impression of her is positive, but right now, the top priority is handling Ying Zhang's second trial. I have neither the time nor the energy, nor any interest in romance. After hesitating for a few seconds, I thought he meant well and didn't want to hurt him, so I had to politely turn him down. Sorry, I have a girlfriend already. We're going to have dinner soon. As I spoke to him, I secretly used my magic to contact Yuji from the underworld, planning for her to pretend to be my girlfriend. Yin Siming was thunderstruck. At that moment, he couldn't tell whether I really had a girlfriend or was just making excuses. But his doubts vanished quickly. A stunning woman with long flowing hair and porcelain skin walked in from outside the cafe. She gracefully walked by and took my arm. I instinctively reached out and wrapped my arm around Yuji's slender waist. Yuji smiled at me warmly and said, Are you done with business? Her smile was breathtaking, mesmerizing everyone, absolutely stunning. Even Yin Siming stood in awe, thinking if he were a man, he couldn't possibly resist such beauty. I nodded at Yuji. Once I relaxed a little, I waved goodbye to Yin Siming, firmly holding Yuji's delicate hand, and slowly left. Day turned to night at the cafe. Soon, it was the day of Ying Zhang's second trial. Countless viewers gathered in front of computers, phones, and TVs, waiting for the show to start. Soon the scene switched to be. Many immortals had already arrived, waiting for the second trial to begin. The court still looked like the Qin Palace. I was by the river of the underworld, using magic to hide the immortals' forms in the courtroom, to prevent ordinary people from noticing through the broadcast. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lin Hao. Today is the second episode of Dialogue Across Ages. In this episode, we'll take a new look at the first emperor from another perspective. As I finished speaking, I slowly walked through the scene, to everyone watching on their screens. Although they were already dazzled by the special effects in the first episode, rewatching it still gave them chills. The comment sections exploded. Here we go, it's starting. Been waiting so long for this. The last episode got my blood boiling. I couldn't get enough of it. Been looking forward to this for ages. The special effects in episode 2 are still explosive. I wonder what the story will be this time. Before the show officially started, online viewers already easily surpassed 10 million. Now that it's live, viewership hit a new peak. The TV station's execs saw these numbers and applauded excitedly, having been shocked the first time. They were now mentally prepared. The scene shifts again. I stand in the center of a musical instrument store and loudly announce, Ying Zhang defeated the Six Kingdoms and unified Huaxia. This led, for the first time in Huaxia's history, to a truly unified empire. He built expressways and the Great Wall, fought off the Xiongnu to the north, conquered Lingnan to the south, wiped out external threats, expanded the country's borders. In other words, without Ying Zhang uniting the Six Kingdoms, there would be no modern Longguo. As soon as I finished, tens of millions of viewers applauded. The comment section heated up again. Well said. Without the first emperor's unification, there would be no prosperity in Longo today. That's right. It's thanks to Emperor Qin Shi Huang that we now have a prosperous land of Waxia and a brilliant history and culture. The conversation shifted. I continued speaking. Some have said, Emperor Ying Zheng started countless wars in his lifetime and destroyed 6 states in succession. More than 1 million soldiers of the 6 states died at the hands of Qin. Isn't that a huge crime? The mortal audience was surprised to hear me mention Ying Zheng's alleged crimes. They were all curious about how I would explain it. After all, those who know history well understand. Ying Zheng's controversial reputation is still debated. Many later generations mistakenly thought Ying Zheng was not very wise. In fact, after conquering the 6 states, Ying Zheng adopted a conciliatory policy toward their people. Besides, what war doesn't bring bloodshed? 24 generations of hardworking Qin people laid a solid foundation for Qin's unification. That's how Emperor Ying Zheng was able to rally support with a single call to sweep away the 6 states. Many soldiers from the 6 states died under Qin's massive army. There were a lot, but to unify the land of Waxia, the Qin people who sacrificed their lives exceeded 1 million. As my words fell, many immortals nodded in deep thought. Just then, an immortal dressed as a Confucian scholar suddenly appeared. He spoke up. No matter how many died when Ying Zheng conquered the 6 states, just the burning of books and burying scholars alive is enough to condemn Ying Zheng. Since this immortal wore Confucian robes, and his magic wasn't strong, I inadvertently didn't block him. So to the audience, he was just seen as a new actor invited by the show. I glanced at him, thinking he was an ancient scholar with some cultivation. The Fangxi was immediately upset by my reprimand. The Fangxi spoke nonsense and drew attention. The fiery axe is like a wild lion who dares to play with snakes. The immortals present and the audience stared blankly for a moment, then started pondering my words. Some believe Ying Zheng burned books and buried Confucian students alive, and killed orthodox Confucian disciples. But they misunderstood. Ying Zheng buried alive the Fangxi, alchemists, at that time, not Confucian scholars. Suddenly, a deep, ancient sigh was heard from the sky. It echoed with gravity. A figure slowly appeared in the hall, observing, with long flowing beard, an ethereal presence, and eyes shining with profound wisdom. It was Confucius, the founder of Confucianism. The sage Confucius arrived. The immortal dressed as a scholar greeted him respectfully. I nodded immediately, and politely said, Lin Hao greets sage Confucius. Confucius spoke. Since Ying Zheng doesn't want to clarify himself, I'll speak for him about the burning of books and burying scholars. As a Confucian, I'll first discuss the burying of scholars. The cause was that Ying Zheng trusted 2 Fangxi the most, Rusheng and Husheng, having them search for elixirs of immortality. They looked for many years and found nothing. While saying this, Confucius slowly waved his hands, casting a spell. Scenes appeared out of nowhere in the Qin shop. The mortal audience just thought it was special effects from the show. In the images, 2 Fangxi sat in a secret room, worried. The older one said, So many years have passed, and there's still no sign of the elixir the emperor wants. If this continues, we're going to get in real trouble. The middle-aged Fangxi agreed. You're right. If Ying Zheng dies, we're sure to be blamed. The older one warned him to be careful with his words. The middle-aged Fangxi looked frustrated. Since Ying Zheng wants to punish us, why stay in Qin? Why not take the money and run? The older one looked conflicted and gritted his teeth, saying, Makes sense. Ying Zheng's delusions will surely vent anger on us. Let's run. Then the 2 Fangxi complained about Ying Zheng at length and decided to escape from Qin with their fellow Fangxi. The scene shifted. Ying Zheng heard about it in the palace and drew his sword like a dragon. He ordered a thorough search across Qin's 9 provinces. They must catch these Fangxi. Qin officials were ordered overnight to investigate all Fangxi in Xianyang City. After a month, a total of more than 460 criminals were caught. Then an imperial decree charged them with spreading falsehoods and misleading the people. A heinous crime. So they were all buried alive. And the news was announced across the land. Confucius waved again to dismiss the spell. and the ceremony of burying the scholars ended. Many immortals and viewers couldn't recover for a long time. This is the real truth behind the burning of books and burying scholars. Before everyone could fully process it, Confucius continued. As for the book burning, it happened in the 34th year of Qin Shi Huang. With Confucius's aged voice, the images played again. Emperor Yingzheng held a banquet. More than 70 scholars of Qin attended. During the banquet, one scholar stood up and highly praised the Qin dynasty's transformation and said Yingzheng's prefecture county system would last forever. Yingzheng was delighted, his face radiant. The conversation shifted, and a scholar named Chun Yu stood up and respectfully said, "Your Majesty, the Shang and Zhou dynasties lasted for ages because they infect nobles. If, after Your Majesty's time, no one in court can manage the nation, the prefecture county system won't work." This triggered a flood of reactions. Is Chun Yu stupid? History has proven the prefecture county system lasted 1,000 years and remained strong. Unexpectedly, Yingzheng didn't punish Chun Yu, but secretly summoned his ministers overnight to discuss the prefecture county system. During the discussion, Li Si spoke up, saying China had never been unified before, so we shouldn't judge the present with the past. Then he raised the point. Now that the 6 states are unified, there are still many divided thoughts. After the emperor gives orders, everyone still acts according to their own views, making unification difficult. So Li Si suggested burning books, except those of Qin historians. All other books inciting discord should be destroyed. Yingzheng listened and pondered for a long time, then simply said, "Approve." With the emperor's approval, Li Si began preparations. This is the whole story behind the book burning event. I sighed deeply, bowed to Confucius and said, "Thank you, Sage Confucius, for clarifying things for future generations. My respects." Confucius waved his hand, indicating I needn't bow. As the founding father of Confucianism, he cares for the people, and certainly doesn't want future generations to misunderstand the first emperor. Afterward, his figure gradually faded and disappeared completely between heaven and earth. The Fangxi, who initially challenged the matter, remained unconvinced even after learning the truth. He claimed Yingzheng pursued the elusive path of immortality, which was unreasonable for a mortal. I ignored him. For mortals, who wouldn't want eternal life? Besides, Yingzheng had many unfinished wishes and ambitions. I looked directly at the immortals and the 10 lords of the underworld around me. Ling Yuandao dares to ask, what crime did the first emperor commit? After my challenge, the entire court fell silent. The 10 lords of the underworld and 3 foreign gods instinctively wanted to refute me, but words escaped them for the moment, and they couldn't say a thing. Every word was polished and full of emotion. Even the Fangxi, who resented Yingzheng, found themselves unable to speak in this Qin-style court. After a while, the Fangxi slowly spoke up. Yingzheng undertook massive construction, built the Great Wall and a Pang Palace, putting a heavy toll on the people and finances. I glanced at him coldly, and he felt his hair stand on end with fear, not daring to continue. The king of Reincarnation secretly sneered. He silently cast a spell to shield him from my judge's pressure, giving him the courage to face me head-on. My Taoist was fierce on the surface but timid within. Sensed someone helping him, suddenly boosted his morale. He said coldly, "It's precisely because Qin's labor requirements are so harsh that the people complain everywhere, sparking uprisings against Qin. Yingzheng's vision this time is unworthy of being an emperor. He deserves to suffer countless tortures after death, never to be reborn for all eternity." The moment he finished shouting, it seemed as if 1,000,000 souls in the netherworld cried out, all victims of chaos and war. Noticed his demeanor suddenly turned fierce. I realized it must be the King of Reincarnation's doing. So I stared in his direction. Eyes read a short-sighted, divisive quail. Is he even qualified to talk about vision? Compared by the apprentice judge to a quail in a fence, how could the King of Reincarnation not be furious? Yet the 3 Realms live broadcast is of great importance.
Even sages
Cannot break the rules. Trapped behind the barrier, the King of Reincarnation is furious but can't speak. His hands clenched tightly at his chest, blocking himself. Seeing the King of Reincarnation exposed, I lean into humor. The corners of my mouth lift. I squint, Then continue since you want to talk about vision. Let me show you what Ying Zhang's vision truly means. Ying Zhang, the first emperor to unite southern China, sent the great general Wang Jiang with 400,000 elite Qin troops to conquer the kingdom of Nanyu. I wave my hand lightly. Scenes emerge again. 400,000 Qin soldiers brave life and death, fighting fiercely in the land of Baiyu. After countless battles, finally defeat Baiyu. According to the customs of that time, victorious troops should return to the capital to celebrate. But suddenly the tone shifts. The grand war scenes morph into an elderly general with graying temples gazing at the northern border, sighing. This is none other than General Wang Jian of Qin. He is writing a letter to Ying Zhang. Qin-era script is small seal. With my extraordinary talents, I can read it, but viewers from later times don't recognize it. I breathe out slowly and explain patiently. The contents of Wang Jian's letter are, he and the 400,000 Qin troops can't return, because Baiyu consists entirely of tribal people. If the troops withdraw, Baiyu will no longer be Qin territory. Not only can these 400,000 soldiers not return to the Central Plains, but they'll need to draft another million civilians to assimilate the Baiyu locals. After Ying Zhang receives the letter, he hesitates for a long time, ultimately agrees to the request. He knows well, sending 1 million people from their homeland into tribal lands is extremely cruel to them. If possible, he wouldn't want to see his people suffer exile. But if he doesn't do this, the land of Baiyu can never truly join the Chinese territory. The scene shifts to vast borderlands. As the emperor and Wang Jian part ways, Wang Jian asks, Your Majesty, my Qin Empire boasts 1 million strong soldiers, 400,000 stationed in Nanyu, 600,000 guarding the north against the Xiongnu. If one day Qin faces trouble, what should we do? Ying Zhang folds his hands behind his back, gazes deeply at Wang Jian, and firmly declares, if Qin faces hardship one day, you must not return to the capital. Wang Jian is struck like thunder, falls to his knees, unable to rise, cries loudly, Your Majesty, I am Qin's loyal servant. If trouble comes to Qin, and I don't return to help, I would become the greatest sinner in history. Ying Zhang sighs deeply, turns his back to Wang Jian. Wang Mang speaks. I know Qin can fall, but the Chinese people must survive. If Qin falls, the Chinese people will still endure. If you lead 400,000 cavalry back, Nanyu will no longer be part of China. After his sigh, he turns to help the fallen Wang Jing up and says for the entire Chinese nation, Sacrifice me alone. Sacrifice me for Qin. The Ying family means nothing, really. Wang Jian bursts into tears. This veteran who has fought on the battlefield for decades has never shed a tear, even when pierced by swords. But now he weeps like a child. Crying with him are the viewers thousands of years later before their screens. Some viewers only now realize Ying Zhang was willing to sacrifice himself for the nation's sake and lay the foundation of China for generations. So what if he's a tyrant? So what if he's not a tyrant? Just this spirit of risking life for the nation is enough to earn the respect of us descendants. The scene gradually blurs. Viewers can't tell if it's their own tears blurring their vision or special effects from the production team. Just then I speak again. The first emperor sent Xian Yu and Liu Bang with 20,000 soldiers, and they captured Xianyang city. Where did the million-strong army once feared by the 6 states go? Where did they all go? Qin's second emperor fell within 15 years. Who can defend the first emperor now? I calm myself a bit and shout at the king of reincarnation inside the barrier.
Now,
Do you really think you're qualified to talk Ying Zhang's vision with me? The method that just slandered Ying Zhang is already scared out of his wits. Even after achieving immortality, he can't withstand the public's righteous fury. Under overwhelming pressure, his eyes turn white. Blood spills from his mouth. I cast a spell to remove him from the trial scene. At this moment, even the high and mighty mortals can't help but bow in respect to Ying Zhang's vision and character. I proudly scan the immortals of the heavens with a slightly amused smile. As for the claim that Qin wasted resources on construction projects, that's pure nonsense. Lepang and Gong only built the foundations. The Great Wall began during the spring and autumn and warring states periods. The first emperor Ying Zhang just connected the walls from various states. That's all he did. Most people in later generations refer to Sima Qian's records about Qin. But Sima Qian lived in the Western Han. New dynasties always deny the previous ones. If you want to talk about extravagant construction, Emperor Wu of Han ruled for 54 years and spent 53 years building tombs. That's true, extravagance. I looked toward the direction of the 10 Yama kings and addressed the gods outside the barrier. In my view, Yingzheng, the first emperor, was truly blameless. No trial needed. Even if there were faults, his merits outweigh them. Before I finish speaking, a powerful aura suddenly attacks from deep within the dungeon, accompanied by agonized screams from the souls below the underworld. I immediately signal Oxhead and Horseface to stop. Right at the next moment, the broadcast screen turns blurry, just like when the first trial ended. This time, Yin Siming was well prepared to wrap things up early. Recording stops. His figure instantly appears on stage. He smiles lightly and says today's show has come to an end. Stay tuned for the time of the next episode. With that, he closes the live broadcast channel. The scene returns to the Netherworld trial court. I now frown deeply, feeling the raging ghostly energy coming from deep within the prison. This fierce and vengeful ghostly aura clearly originates from the fierce ghost Xiang Yu. That day, deep in the dungeon, King Zhou used his abilities. Let Xiang Yu hear the voices from the trial court, then joined forces with Amaterasu to destroy the millennium-old chill of the Netherworld. Xiang Yu, deep in the dungeon, hears my verdict on Yingzheng, burns with rage, forcefully breaks his chains, releases tens of thousands of imprisoned fierce ghosts, and rushes straight toward the judgment hall, arrives directly before us, and shouts out, "My child," spouting utter nonsense. I am the king of Western Sichu. When the millions of wronged souls of the underworld come, you'll die like a dog. Xiang Yu roars in fury, and with overwhelming ghostly energy rushes toward me. He was a mighty general in life, capable of uprooting mountains and fighting 100 men alone. After death, he transformed into a fierce ghost deep inside the 9 Nether dungeon. Being nourished by ghostly energy, his power has reached unimaginable levels. I don't dare to be careless, immediately casting demonic Dao Ming Yin. Though Xiang Yu is fierce, this formation is hard to escape for even him. He takes a full defensive stance to resist. The immortals nearby are once again awed by Dao Ming Yin, and still feel lingering fear. The judicial deity Yang Jian suddenly slams the table. He wields his 3-pointed double-edged blade, opens his celestial eye and shouts angrily, "How dare you?" Hell's Wang Po dares disrupt the judgment hall and must die. The next second, the vertical eye on his forehead flashes with golden light, ready to strike Xiang Yu at any moment. Many immortals glare coldly, putting pressure on Xiang Yu. Xiang Yu bursts out with manic laughter, waves his arm horizontally. The thousands of fierce ghosts released earlier appear all over the judgment hall. Howling winds and mournful cries release chilling and overwhelming ghostly energy. With the eerie energy of the underworld, the ghostly Xiang Yu enters, knocking Yang Jian back slightly. Of course, Yang Jian also didn't go all out. He believes that since this is the underworld, he shouldn't use his full strength. Numerous underworld judges, thousands of ox heads and horse faces, thousands of black and white impermanent spirits, arrive late and confront Xiang Yu and his ghosts. Xiang Yu's eyes fill with red, his ghostly energy erupts, continues to charge straight at me. The fierce ghosts behind him follow closely, rushing towards the chief judge, and engage in deadly battle with the underworld officials who came to suppress them. For a moment, screams, roars, and cries echo throughout the judgment hall. Chaos erupts in the underworld. Bai Qi snorts coldly, raises his spear and charges at Xiang Yu. Yang Jian follows closely behind, holding his 3-pointed double-edged halberd, aiming straight at Xiang Yu's vital points. Xiang Yu howls madly,
tearing apart a black impermanent spirit before him.
Utterly fearless against Bai Qi and Yang Jian's attacks. Many immortals present start suppressing the fierce ghosts. But these ghosts are strong and numerous. Each can easily slaughter several underworld soldiers. Even with many immortals joining the fight, the battle still looks grim. Among the 10 King Yamas, King Qin Guan, King Chu Jiang, and King Song, and King Wu Guan can't sit still either. and all charge in to slay the fierce ghosts. Only the Wheel King sits quietly in the dark, watching the fight below, unmoved. Even has a mocking cold smile at the corner of his mouth, calmly watching the spectacle. Xiang Yu howls insanely again. Ghostly energy surges within him. He drives back. Yan Jian and Bai Qi throws a fierce punch, smashing several immortals' bodies nearby. I clench my fists and sigh inwardly that I'm just a trainee judge. My magical power is low, barely half as strong as a fierce ghost, but with Dao Mingyin's blessing, even Xiang Yu and the fierce ghosts can't approach me. But Dao Mingyin can't distinguish friend from foe. Using it randomly would hurt immortals and underworld soldiers, so I can't use Dao De techniques, Taoist Lord Laozi observes, and sighs to himself. Xiang Yu is causing havoc, involving millions of wronged souls and billions of people in future generations. The karmic burden is immense. If a sage intervenes, they will inevitably be bound by karma. Saint Confucius is not skilled in combat, can only stand aside and observe. Seeing Bai Qi and Yang Jian can't subdue Xiang Yu. King Chu Jiang, King Qinguang, and King Yanluo. The three Yanluo kings join forces. Amaterasu then also takes action, moves in front of Xiang Yu, and says, "Let me help you." Before he finishes his words, Xiang Yu punches right into Amaterasu's chest. Endless spiritual power and ghostly energy ravage his body. After a scream from Amaterasu, his body is blasted to dust, his soul completely eroded by ghostly energy. Even then, he didn't understand why Xiang Yu suddenly killed him. It should be known that the dungeon, the everlasting 9 nether cold locks deep inside, were destroyed with his help for Xiang Yu. But Amaterasu didn't realize. Even as a fierce ghost, Xiang Yu remained proud and arrogant. He didn't need Amaterasu's help at all. After slaying Amaterasu, Xiang Yu remembers something, casually takes out the small brocade pouch Amaterasu gave him earlier, opens it to reveal a long sword, Totsuka Cloud Sword, also known as the Grass Cutter Sword, one of the 3 great divine treasures. Unexpectedly, Amaterasu entrusted this divine sword to Xiang Yu. Originally, Xiang Yu fought barehanded, able to duel Bai Qi and Zhang Jian alone. Now, with a divine weapon in hand, his fighting power rises to a whole new level. Xiang Yu laughs hysterically and attacks the Yanluo immortals in front of him. He strikes a mighty blow at King Qinguang. King Qinguang can't withstand it, his soul body nearly chopped in 2. King Yanluo and King Chu Jiang exchange glances. Shock flashes in their eyes. The true strength is similar to King Qinguang. Bai Qi and Yang Jian's faces grow grim. Ghostly Xiang Yu's true power far exceeds their expectations. Lord Laozi stands aside, can't bear to watch so much slaughter, prepares to act and suppress the chaos. Just then, a loud dragon roar echoes from deep within the 9 nether underworld. Everyone present, immortals and underworld officials, and even the fierce ghosts, immediately stop fighting. Even Xiang Yu, eyes blood red, stops attacking. I look toward the depths of the 9 netherworld and see a majestic purple-gold 5-clawed divine dragon soaring through the 9 nether underworld, its mouth emitting a resounding dragon cry. Many less powerful immortals present unexpectedly feel the urge to kneel in reverence. In a flash, the purple-gold dragon rides the clouds and arrives at the judgment hall. Its immense pressure makes the fierce ghosts tremble. The dragon then slowly transforms into a human form, standing with hands behind his back. A voice of authority emanates from him. "Xiang Ji, submit to justice." Ghostly Xiang Yu hears this and cannot keep hold of the grass-cutter sword in his hand. His muscles instinctively tense up as he stands. His blood-red eyes are fixed on the figure ahead. The peerless Emperor Yingzheng enters once more. Xiang Yu's Totsuka Cloud Sword clangs to the floor. His eyes are locked onto that imperial-robed back, his whole body trembling, and he squeezes out the name Yingzheng through gritted teeth. If one asks who Xiang Yu hated most in life, besides Liu Bang, who took his legacy, it was the first emperor, Yingzheng. Yingzheng sent Li Shen and Wang Jian to lead armies against Xish Yu, conquering the Chu capital. Xiang Yu's grandfather Xiang Yan was killed in that battle. The Xiang family was originally generals of Chu, living in luxury as Chu nobility, but reduced to mere commoners. Xiang Yu had hated Yingzheng since youth. This hatred was etched into his bones. But while the first emperor lived, he dared not rebel. That year, Ying Zheng died on his way back to Xianyang. Later, Chen Shang and Wu Guang started a rebellion, throwing the world into chaos. Xiang Liang and Xiang Yu launched their uprising. Xiang Liang was then killed by Qin General Zhang Han. Xiang Yu was raised by Xiang Liang since he was a boy, treated him like a father. Upon hearing of his death, he poured all his new and old grudges onto Ying Zheng and the millions of Qin people. In the endless years as a vengeful spirit, his hatred has not faded, but has only grown deeper. Right now he just wants to tear Ying Zheng to pieces. But for some reason, his heart burns with rage, yet his body refuses to obey. His feet simply won't move at all. It's a fear etched into his very bones. Ying Zheng slowly turned around. His gaze swept over Xiang Yu and the vengeful spirits behind him. The spirits instantly stood and backed away. They bowed their heads and dared not look at him. Suddenly, Xiang Yu roared in fury, grabbed the sky cloud sword and slashed toward him. Ying Zheng didn't even draw his sword. In his eyes, Xiang Yu wasn't worthy yet. He stood with his hands behind his back. The dragon energy within him surged, transforming into a purple-gold dragon that rushed at Xiang Yu. A loud dragon's roar echoed again. Xiang Yu raised his sword to block the wind, and the entire tribunal hall shook. A purple-gold radiance swept over everything. Everyone covered their eyes. After a long time, the light faded. Xiang Yu knelt on the ground, bleeding from all 7 orifices. His blood-red eyes were filled with hatred. The sky cloud sword was plunged upside down in the ground. The sword blade trembled. The spirits were begging for mercy, facing Ying Zheng's dragon aura. Even the 3 sacred treasures had to yield docilely. Ying Zheng's face was expressionless. Several streams of purple-gold dragon energy turned into iron chains, binding Xiang Yu tightly. When the tens of thousands of spirits behind Xiang Yu saw this, some dropped to their knees. Others turned and ran for their lives. Ying Zheng radiated authority without anger. With a cold snort, the escaping spirits were all shocked to the core, collapsing to the ground. The King of Hell quickly ordered those spirits to be locked up. Officials of the underworld took the order, sealed the spirits with chains, and escorted them all back to the dungeon. In the tribunal, the ox-head and horse-faced demons, the black and white impermanents. The corpses of the underworld's judges numbered as many as 100,000. Even more than a dozen immortal jurors were killed. Xiang Yu's eyes were empty, bound at the center of the tribunal. King Qingwang was clutching a half-foot-long wound, stepped forward, and shouted at Xiang Yu, "You secretly released tens of thousands of vengeful spirits, disrupted the tribunal, and committed countless murders. What punishment do you deserve?" Xiang Yu lifted his head, the scarlet in his eyes undiminished, laughing as he struggled to speak. Defeated soldiers aren't worthy to talk to me. Even as a prisoner, he remained arrogant, and except for Ying Zheng, no one at the scene could suppress him. King Qingwang spat out a mouthful of blood in anger, causing his nearly healed wound to burst open again. Xiang Yu let out a long howl. "Winners are kings, losers are outcasts. I'll accept whatever sentence you give. I just didn't expect this underworld to be such a place that bullies the weak and fears the strong." The King of Hell suddenly stood up and shouted sternly, "So you're saying you don't accept it?" Xiang Yu stood up and stared at the King of Hell. "I, the hegemon king, reject the underworld's verdict. Ying Zheng's crimes are countless, yet the underworld does nothing to punish him. Instead, they judge me first."
He walked forward step by step.
Even though his powers were sealed, his presence was still terrifying. It was still fresh in everyone's mind how he wounded King Qingwang with a single strike. The King of Hell was actually forced to keep retreating. "You accuse me of mass murder, but Ying Zheng's killings put mine to shame." The King of Hell stepped back several paces, not knowing how to respond. At that moment, I stepped forward, pointed at Xiang Yu's nose and shouted, "Who do you think you are? You think you can compare to the first emperor Ying Zheng?" Xiang Yu tensed all his muscles and charged at me, using all his ghostly strength to try and break his chains. I stood motionless before him, as the chains bound him tightly. He couldn't get even 5 centimeters from me. Unable to move a single step closer, I looked into his eyes and said, "You claim to be the army of justice, yet you act like a thief and a scoundrel. With your character, Don't even mention comparing to the first emperor. Even Liu Bang surpasses you 100 times over. I poked at him with the names of the two people he hated most. Xian Yu went completely insane, shouting madly. I frowned and performed a spell, stretching out my hand toward his forehead. A flash of light swept by. Xian Yu deflated like a punctured ball, half kneeling on the ground, unable to make a sound. I continued coldly. Back then, you and Liu Bang were both sent by King Huawei of Siaju, agreeing that whoever entered Guangzhong first would be king. But you broke your promise, sending him to Shuhan to be king instead. That's betrayal. You falsely claimed the order of King Huawei, murdered your superior, General Song Yi, and made yourself the commander. That's disloyalty. King Huawei ordered no burning, killing, or looting upon entering Guangzhong. But you set fire to the Qin palace, dug up the first emperor's tomb, and embezzled Qin's treasures. You let your men oppress the people and seize their grain by force. That's unrighteousness. You drove your sworn brother out of Pengqing, set up your own capital there, and took the Han King's territory, occupying Liang and Chu for yourself. That's utter rebellion. And that's unfilial. I took a step forward, looking down at the half-kneeling Xian Yu. People like you faithless, disloyal, unrighteous, and unfilial. What right do you have to compare yourself to the first emperor? My words pierced Xian Yu's heart like knives. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and stared at me, a mere underworld trainee judge, not knowing how to respond at all. I stepped closer and continued to chastise him. You achieved nothing in life. You burned down Xianyang Palace, destroyed countless historical records, and massacred surrendered soldiers. Your crimes are monstrous. You let your soldiers prey on the people, then after death became a vengeful ghost, released tens of thousands of spirits, disrupted the tribunal, and killed immortals and underworld officials. Your sins are doubled. With these crimes, you aren't fit for reincarnation and deserve eternal torment in the underworld. My voice boomed like thunder, echoing through every corner of the tribunal. Xian Yu's deeds in life aside, just disrupting the tribunal sparked everyone's wrath. 100,000 underworld officials and over a dozen immortals fell in this mutiny. Jiu Yancheng. Even the pressure from that immortal alone is enough for the underworld to bear, not to mention King Qingguang being seriously wounded by him, and allied kings of hell who won't let this go. No one present had any objection to my verdict. King Lun Juan gave me and Xian Yu a grim look and cursed, "Idiot!" Xian Yu raised his head, the red in his eyes gradually fading. His shoulders trembled, making sounds that could have been laughing or crying. Eventually he stood up and roared at the immortals outside the barrier. I, the hegemon king, refused the verdict. Even with his powers sealed and his body bound, his roar still stirred up the underworld's ghostly energy. I stared at the ghost energy surging around him. What else do you refuse? Xian Yu looked straight at me, then looked to Ying Zhang standing in the center of the Qin Hall. If you want me to submit, first try Qin Shi Hu Hai. Qin Shi Hu Hai conspired with Xiao Gao and Li Si, and usurped the throne, making himself emperor and immediately slaughtering his siblings. His cruelty was extreme. 6 brothers and 10 sisters were crushed into meat paste alive, with no remains left. Even ministers like Li Si and Meng Tian failed to escape his poison. During Hu Hai's reign, he conscripted massive numbers of farmers to build Ipang Palace and the Lishan Mausoleum, and ordered 50,000 soldiers stationed in Xianyang for his own enjoyment, demanding provisions from every region. He forbade those delivering grain from eating within 300 li around Xianyang. They had to bring their own food, besides forced unpaid labor. Farmers' taxes kept increasing. In the end, people were forced to rebel. After Xiang Yu finished, I nodded to myself. His inhumanity was appalling, and his crimes monstrous. After death, he should be given the harshest penalty.
His soul scattered forever.
But the first emperor Ying Zheng devoted his life to all of China. And now, if I sentence his son, I don't want him to have to see it with his own eyes. With a sigh, I turned to look at Ying Zheng. One spoke up, saying the crimes of Qin's second emperor, He Hai, were countless. He deserves to be judged. Qin Shi Huang should temporarily recuse himself. Ying Zheng remained silent. He stood with his hands behind his back, looking up at the sky, not saying a word. No one knows what he's thinking. As an old general of Qin, Bai Qi naturally favored Ying Zheng. He also couldn't bear for Ying Zheng to watch his own son being judged. He wanted to persuade him but didn't know where to start. In the end, he only suggested Qin Shi Huang recuse himself. Yang Jian and many immortals were all watching Ying Zheng with curiosity. Everyone wanted to know how the legendary emperor would handle it. Would he recuse himself or step in to save his son? King Lun Juan smiled with a hint of playfulness, his face filled with amusement. Although Ying Zheng's verdict was still up for discussion, Hai's guilt was beyond any doubt. No matter how great Ying Zheng's achievements were, he couldn't save him. This was just what King Ying Zheng wanted to see. Shizuo Zinan and Hades looked at Ying Zheng with dark, shadowy eyes. They'd repeatedly been humiliated in the underworld, so they'd long wanted a chance to tarnish Qin Shi Huang's name. As long as Ying Zheng dared say a single word for Hai, they would never let it go. After a long time, Ying Zheng slowly lowered his hands from behind his back.
His gaze swept over the immortals.
Finally, it landed on me. Then his expression became calm. He spoke again, slowly. I have an audacious request. I turned toward him and addressed him, Your Majesty. Please proceed. Ying Zheng walked up to me. I will preside over the judgment myself. Ha's voice echoed. The entire hall erupted into chaos. Shizuo Zinan and Hades were stunned. The smile froze on King Lan Zhao's lips. The immortals were left speechless. Even Laozi looked at Ying Zheng in astonishment. I know Ying Zheng's personality. If he said he'd personally judge Hai, he definitely wasn't going easy on him.
He could give up his ancestors' legacy for the greater good.
So he wouldn't let fatherly affection cloud his judgment. With him presiding, he'd judge even harsher than I would. The immortals and Yama, after previous trials, have come to understand Ying Zheng's character somewhat. Everyone knew he wasn't the type to be swayed by feelings. Still, to have a father judge his own son was just too cruel. I wanted to speak up and persuade him. But then I saw Ying Zheng, his eyes filled with unwavering determination. The words died on my lips. I could only meet his gaze and nod slowly. Then I turned to order Oxhead and Horseface. Bring Hai to the judgment hall. Soon Hai was brought in. Hai was very self-aware. The moment he entered the judgment hall, he didn't say a word. He knelt straight down, bowed his head low, waiting for his fate. He no longer had a trace of his former emperor's bearing. It was truly a disgrace to the great Qin, a disgrace to Ying Zheng. Ying Zheng feared neither gods nor demons in all three realms. His imperial aura intimidated even the wicked. Even a fierce ghost like Xiang Yu feared him. Yet, Hai, in contrast, had totally shamed Ying Zheng with his words and actions. A complete failure as a son. Ying Zheng glanced at Hai, his eyes filled with deep disappointment. He had taught his children since young that, born to the imperial family, they should stand tall and proud, fear nothing. After a long moment, Ying Zheng shouted, Unfilial son, raise your head. I heard that familiar voice, and clung to it like a lifeline.
He scrambled forward on all fours,
shouting, Father, save me. The underworld judge wants to condemn me. Ying Zheng glanced at him coldly. He kicked Hai over 10 meters away. Hai was completely stunned. Ying Zheng had spoiled him the most in life. He couldn't understand why his loving father would now kick him away. Ying Zheng stepped up to the judgment platform.
He declared in a loud voice, I will now personally judge Hai.
Hai was in total disbelief. His own father would judge him. Yet a trace of delight flashed in his heart. His biological father was presiding. Given his father's love, surely he'd be lenient.
He thought Ying Zheng was just acting cold.
Just to avoid suspicion, he finally felt relieved. The light returned to his eyes. Then Ying Zheng's authoritative voice boomed through the judgment hall. Haha, second emperor of Qin, indulged in pleasure. He put villains in power, heavily increased forced labor and taxes, forcibly conscripted commoners, causing widespread suffering among the people. First crime, persecuting the loyal and virtuous, murdering important officials. Second crime, harming kin, slaughtering his own siblings. Third crime, conspired with Li Si and Zhao Gao to unlawfully alter the imperial will, usurping the throne. Fourth, all crimes combined. Sentence: Hai's soul will be destroyed, never to be reincarnated for all eternity. As his words fell, Thunder rumbled throughout the judgment hall. Every immortal Yama and official of the underworld stared at Ying Zhang in shock. Never to be reborn for all eternity is the harshest punishment in the underworld. There is no exception. Even those tormented by karmic fire, villains with countless deaths on their hands, judges would not lightly give such a sentence. At worst, they'd serve out thousands of years before reincarnation. Never to be reincarnated means this soul is obliterated forever. Hahai was completely incredulous. He sat on the ground wailing. Father, how can you do this to me? I'm your own flesh and blood. Ying Zhang ignored him. He slowly drew the heaven inquiry sword, and with heavy steps, closed in on Hahai. Hahai was so terrified he fell to the ground, crawling backward in panic, screaming, "No! Father, please spare me! I know I was wrong." Ying Zhang ignored him completely. He raised the heaven inquiry sword, gathered his power, and brought the sword down. This strike would annihilate Hahai's soul. At this point, Hahai's facade was useless.
He cursed at Ying Zhang. You are unfit to be a father.
If it weren't for you letting Zhao Gao teach me writing and the laws, I wouldn't have been corrupted by him. Ying Zhang never expected his once favored son to curse him to his face. At that moment, he felt no anger, only regret. He closed his eyes. The heaven inquiry sword fell without hesitation. A violent surge of dragon energy erupted. Hahai's soul let out a shrill, miserable cry. Annihilated, erased from the netherworld, Ying Zhang silently sheathed the sword. Without saying a word, after executing Hahai, Ying Zhang slowly walked out of the judgment hall. The imperial robes on his back appeared unspeakably lonely. Xiang Yu watched his retreating figure and fell to his knees in exhaustion. Emperor Ying Zhang earned the respect of everyone there by his actions. Even the Yamas and twin gods who'd previously complained were speechless at this moment. The immortals, Yamas, and twin gods all left. In the end, the grand judgment hall was left with only me. At this moment, Kongbing's voice sounded in my mind. Ding, detected host, has successfully judged Hahai. Xiang Yu has completed the system's hidden side quest, rewarding host with Earth Immortal Cultivation. Shen Ying Zhang actually completed a hidden quest unexpectedly. Earth Immortal Cultivation is just what I needed. Earlier, when Xiang Yu led the vengeful spirits against me, if it hadn't been for Ming Ying of the demonic path keeping order, I'd have been ripped apart already. Now that I have Earth Immortal power, I can finally defend myself. Earth Immortal is the official start of the path to immortality, though not a high level in the three realms. Above it are Celestial Immortal, Golden Immortal, Taiyi Golden Immortal, and Daluo Golden Immortal. The more judgments I preside over, the stronger my cultivation will become. Maybe I'll even achieve sainthood. After all, my cultivation comes from the system. No need to wait for some lucky chance. I chuckled to myself, decided to head to the mortal world and check on the three courts first. I have a unique plan. Better talk with the TV station leadership. In the northern mortal world, many leaders learned of me through the privacy filter. They had something to discuss. I directly booked the most luxurious private room at Beizi Xing's hotel. First, discussing poetry over dinner is a tradition. Second, the show dialogue across time is incredibly popular. Both episodes broke viewership records. This achievement deserves attention. Inside the luxurious hotel suite, Yin Dalu, Yin Siming, and other leaders were all present. The seat to the left of Yin Siming was reserved for me. Everyone present assumed that Yin Siming and I were dating. Sitting together seemed natural. I hurried to the hotel. With the guidance of a server, I found the private room. All the leaders stood up to welcome me. There was only one empty seat, right next to Yin Siming. I didn't overthink it. I naturally sat down there. After all, he was the only one in the room I knew well. When Yin Siming saw me sit next to him, he discreetly patted his chest in relief. At the same time, he silently prayed that no one would bring up our relationship. At the celebration dinner, the leaders took turns complimenting me. Their remarks hinted at wanting to recruit me for the Sansheng filming. They all said they'd do their best to help. Plans for the Sansheng shoot were quickly finalized. Everyone then chatted casually. Finally, Deputy Director Sun from Lambai Channel couldn't hold back.
He indirectly asked,
Host Xiaolan is young and promising, so he must have a girlfriend already. Others agreed. Vice Director Yin mentioned it to us before. I remembered how Yin Siming confessed that day, and I brushed it off using UG. I didn't expect he'd tell others. I frowned and looked at Yin Siming, then nodded to those around me in confirmation. Yin Siming met my gaze and quickly looked away. To the other leaders, this scene looked like playful banter between a couple. Deputy Director Sun raised his glass to toast me. Xiaolan, the host, and his girlfriend make a perfect pair. Here's to you both. I was baffled with my first drink. None of these people have even met UG. Yet they're saying we make a perfect couple. After a hearty meal and drinks, regarding Sanshan's work in the mortal realm, we discussed everything thoroughly. The moon was already up. The celebration banquet came to a successful end. Yin Siming patted his chest again and let out another sigh of relief. Finally managed to muddle through. I originally planned to drive home myself, but remembered the strict checks on drunk driving now. So I summoned Yuji from the underworld to drive. As a Dao immortal, I actually don't need to drive. So-called driving is just using magical powers to deceive mortals. Yuji quickly arrived at the hotel entrance before everyone left. She naturally held onto my arm. At this moment, seeing the shocked faces of all the CCTV leaders, I was a little confused. Didn't we discuss this before? This is my girlfriend. What's wrong with you guys? The leaders exchanged glances. Then all turned to look at Yin Siming. Yin Siming's face turned red, wishing he could disappear. Meanwhile, in the Juyu underworld, Ying Zheng was dressed in his imperial robe. His back faced the prison gates. Standing with his hands behind his back, he had just personally judged Hu Hai and destroyed his soul with his own hands. Ying Zheng felt an indescribable emotion. It wasn't sadness, nor was it relief. He hadn't even noticed when I approached the prison gate. Hearing some movement, he slowly turned around. Seeing it was me, his expression relaxed a bit. He asked what I wanted. I walked a few steps closer and secretly sighed. Sanshang is about to begin. Want to visit Xi'an City 2,000 years in the future? Ying Zheng breathed evenly. After his last visit to the market, he started longing for more. Unfortunately, time was tight, so despite his eagerness, he couldn't take a close look. Now, hearing there's a chance to visit the mortal world again, he was overjoyed. Seeing his interest, I continued, this time we'll go to the mortal world, with no immortals or underworld staff. Only the judge will accompany us. I shifted the topic and handed him a bamboo tube. With a serious tone, this time we'll be regular people touring Zidu. We must understand the rules of modern times first, so nothing goes wrong. There were seal script characters on the bamboo tube, summarizing some basic regulations of later generations and general knowledge. Ying Zheng took the bamboo tube and replied calmly, saying he'd study it himself. I bid farewell to Ying Zheng. I sent the general process of Sansheng and detailed assignments via black and white impermanence to the underworld. I didn't bother if King Yama or Wheel King agreed. I also summoned a pair of ox head and horse face to act as cameramen with magic. I transformed them into ordinary human form. Their clothing changed into modern casual wear. The scene shifted to the mortal world. Monday, 10 a.m. On the broad streets of Zidu, Ying Zheng and I walked side by side. Oxhead and Horseface carried the camera behind us. The live stream for Dialogue Across Time was connected. I turned and spoke directly to the camera. Hello to all our viewers watching on screen. I'm Lin Hao. Today marks the third episode of Dialogue Across Time. For this episode, I'll be exploring Zidu with Emperor Ying Zheng, letting him witness the prosperity of modern China firsthand. Oxhead and Horseface skillfully zoomed out the camera, putting Ying Zheng and me in the same frame. The comments section exploded. The stream started all of a sudden. I'm still at work. Why did they pick Monday to broadcast? I think it's because everyone's at work or school on Monday. The streets are emptier, which makes street filming easier. I was about to slack off but didn't know what to do. Now there's something to watch. Ying Zheng stepped onto the solid pavement, amazed at the modern world's prosperity. Even ordinary roads for the people are so smooth and wide. I'm truly pleased, since we suddenly descended to the mortal world. I chose a small garden with no surveillance and few people, to avoid exposing supernatural abilities to mortals. Soon, I brought Ying Zheng onto the highway. Even though it's Monday, not rush hour, the streets were still busy with cars. During this period, Ying Zhang learned from the bamboo tube about the modern world. He knew people no longer used horse-drawn carriages, but invented something called a car. Yet, seeing the traffic firsthand, he was still stunned. It took a while for him to recover. After a long moment, he nodded and said, "Good." Then I took Ying Zhang to wait for a bus at the stop. He wore Qin Dynasty attire, seeming out of place with the waiting bystanders. Thankfully, Oxhead and Horseface stood behind us, carrying a camera and live streaming. Curious onlookers nearby gave us some glances, then turned away. No one dared look at Ying Zhang directly. Even though he suppressed his regal aura, the faint sense of majesty still kept people at a distance. A 7 or 8-year-old child ran over, tugged at Ying Zhang's robe sleeve, and asked with big eyes, "Mister, are you making a movie?" Seeing the child's clear innocence, Ying Zhang slightly smiled. He replied gently, "Yes, we're filming a movie." When dealing with ordinary people, Ying Zhang was particularly kind. He showed none of the pride of a great emperor. Soon as the bus started, a broadcast sounded, "Dear passengers, welcome aboard Route 64 bus. Next stop, department store. Please hold on and stand steadily. Thank you for your cooperation." Ying Zhang looked around and whispered to me, "What kind of magic is this? It happens out of nowhere. So amazing." I had only written down essential info on the bamboo tube. Many tech products weren't included. I explained quietly it's not magic, but an invention of modern people. They record the voice first, then play it through a speaker. Ying Zhang only has a vague understanding. He murmurs in awe, truly impressed. All kinds of comments are suddenly flooding the screen. Just one loudspeaker has already shocked the first emperor. If he ever saw a TV, imagine what a computer would do to him. Look at the first emperor's sitting posture. He looks so nervous. I don't know why, but for some reason, the first emperor actually looks a bit cute like this. Previously, the show always presented him as powerful and intimidating, fearless. But now he doesn't seem that different from an ordinary person. The bus passes one stop after another. In the end, I get off with Ying Zhang near the shopping district. We walk all the way. It's almost time to eat. It's a bit early now, but by the time it's actually mealtime, the small restaurants along the street will be packed. I thought about it. The Qin dynasty was mainly into wheat-based foods. They ground wheat to make noodles and drank from big bowls. So I decided to take Ying Zhang to eat lamb palmo. Lamb palmo was called lamb soup in ancient times. It's one of the most famous dishes in Xi'an. Meticulously cooked, rich and pure in flavor. The meat is tender and the broth is thick, rich but not greasy. We arrive at a small restaurant specializing in lamb palmo. Ying Zhang and I sit by the window. The owner sees a cameraman following us and instinctively assumes we're food vloggers. He personally brings over the menu. "Please have a look at the menu," he asks with a big smile, wanting to know what we'd like to eat. Ying Zhang can't read modern simplified Chinese, so he slides the menu over to me. I take the menu. I did my homework before coming and ordered 2 shuaiking, 1 plate of Wamao Yiti Shuang water-boiled lamb, and 2 glasses of sour plum juice. There aren't many people in the restaurant. The chef gets busy for a while, and a full table of dishes is ready. Ying Zhang leans in to smell the food on the table. He can't wait to dig in. He picks up his chopsticks, takes a piece of lamb and pops it in his mouth. The delicious flavor bursts in his mouth, intensely stimulating his taste buds. He then tries a piece of bread soaked in the broth. The unique aroma of wheat fills his mouth. He can't help but exclaim how delicious it is. Back in the Qin dynasty, they didn't have MSG, oyster sauce, or cooking wine. Even salt was barely processed and very coarse. The refined salt we eat today didn't appear until the late 20th century, and white flour is only found in modern times. The lamb, seasoned and cooked with so many ingredients, has become an unbelievably tasty broth, and the bread soaked in it is truly amazing. Ying Zhang has never seen such delicacies in his life. Yet, as an emperor, no matter how tasty the food is, he can't just let go and eat without restraint. He eats fast, but every movement is still elegant and proper. No talking while eating, no speaking while in bed. He stays silent during the meal, but I can tell from his eyes that he's extremely satisfied with this spread. After the meal, Ying Zhang takes out a handkerchief to dab at his mouth and says slowly, "Such delicacies I've never seen in my life. I wonder if common people in the future can enjoy something this good. I finished the last of my sour plum drink and say that ordinary families can have this every day. When Ying Zhang hears this, he is overjoyed. He knows he's nothing but a wandering soul now and doesn't need food on a daily basis. Whether future generations can eat such food is all he cares about. Once I assured him they could, he's in an even better mood. And again, the comment section explodes with reactions. Truly the greatest emperor of all time, putting the well-being of future generations first. Worried whether people can afford to eat such delicacies, such devotion to his country and people. This kind of vision makes us respect him even more. But all these are just some of Xian's many snacks. I really wish the first emperor could taste all of today's gourmet foods. They should rename this show Dragon Bone on the Tip of the Tongue, so Chen Shihuan could try specialties from all over. After eating and drinking his fill, I pay the owner. The owner thought we were food bloggers there for a promotion. He didn't want to charge us at first, but after we insisted, he finally accepted the payment. Before we leave, he gets even friendlier and gives each of us a bottle of soda. On a scorching summer day,
Taking a sip of ice-cold soda.
is truly refreshing.